Welcome back to another edition of the Rodcast. Monday, fun day edition of the Rodcast. Lots to get into on the show today. Major League Baseball draft happening, still going on, but the first couple of rounds happened over the weekend, so we'll get into that a little bit. Also, we got lots to talk about. SEC Media Day starting up today, so that'll be a big topic of conversation. We'll talk about what questions we'd like to see asked at Big 12 Media Days. We'll get into that conversation, that hypothetical. Also, the Texas football roster has been updated, obviously getting ready for Big 12 Media Day. So we'll get into some of the Texas roster updates and some of the different metrics we're looking at for some of the players, the height and the weight for some of the guys. I think we've seen some drastic weight changes in a good way for some of the players. So we'll talk about that too coming up here in the first segment. Getting into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets later on this show. Got some CJ Stroud take that I want to share with you guys. It's a national one, but something that I've warned you guys about. So we'll get into that too coming up. Also, there is a ranking of running backs. No surprise where they have the Dallas Cowboys running back room ranked. So we'll dive into that too a little bit later on the show. I've been studying the SEC and Texas transition to the SEC. So I'm identifying more and more concepts, plays that are really popular in the SEC, really effective in the SEC. We'll talk about some of those that also may be in Sark's staple of plays and something that he may be ahead of the curve already in terms of Texas's transition into the SEC. So we'll get into that when we go behind the burnt orange curtain. We got Rod's rant of the day. There are several different ways I could go with Rod's rant of the day, but it'll be probably an NFL related rant of the day. So we'll talk some NFL, heavy NFL in the second hour of the show. We got all your usual favorites. Of course, we got off the record. We got who said that. We got your topic for the big fat poll of the day, what the facts, what the stats. It's all here for you. We're jam-packed on a Monday. Appreciate you joining us. Before we get into any of that, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He is one of the hardest working members of the ALN family. He's got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but I'm pretty damn sure this man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It's our friend, co-host, and neighbor. It's Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, brother?
Doing good. Ready to rock another week with you. It was a good weekend. I hope you had a good weekend. Nothing too busy.
Crazy weekend. Well, obviously, that was. We don't talk a lot of politics and stuff on the show, but it was a international story, the biggest story in the world. Someone took a shot at President Trump, an assassination attempt. Thank God he survived. So glad that he was. The assassin, obviously, the assassin was taken down immediately, and then President Trump was okay. So happy about that. I will say this though, so you ain't got to worry about no more drama during election season, Patrick. I think that's pretty much done. So you don't have to worry about. I think there was some drama leading up to it. There will be no drama anymore. I think it's pretty much a done deal there. So yeah, I do want to acknowledge that we're not just ignoring. Obviously, that's the biggest story in the world, not a sports related one. He did play golf afterwards, so I think the next day. So maybe you can make that sports related. But I don't want people to think we're just ignoring the biggest story in the world. Trust me, we that if you want to ask about our weekend, that's pretty much sets up everybody's weekend. It was a big part of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, no, and that was that. And then I turned off the TV as soon as I could. Stepped away from it.
I know you did. I thought about that. I was like, oh man, Patrick, right now, this is not the climate that Patrick wants to be in right now.
No, yes, just turn back on.
It was a horrible thing anyway.
Oh yeah,
obviously.
No, violence is never the answer.
But you just don't like political conversation, and then obviously it was a big part of that.
No, exactly. Yeah. No, I went out and I grilled some steaks, and it was very nice. And
good for you.
We got to see the great moment of I was sitting with my buddy and we grilled steaks, and then my dog Lou was very aware of what was happening. My buddy's dog, no clue steaks were being had. He's asleep on the couch, like, why is this dog not caring? And then we give the dog a little piece of steak, and that dog for the rest of the time was like, guys, you just gotta let me know steaks is happening. My nose doesn't work the way it used to.
Is it an old dog?
It's an older dog, but it's the same age as Lou. It's aging a little bit faster than Lou.
Trust me, I get it. Yeah, now I got a 15-year-old, and you're right. The senses don't work the same as they used to.
Yeah.
sight, smell. But yeah, mine when bacon is being cooked though, she still knows something about the bacon. So if there was steak was being cooked, I think she'd be around there too. So
So that was
that's a rare breed.
Yeah, that was it was a fun afternoon grilling and
That's good.
enjoying the weather. That was not too bad. It was humid, but it was there was a nice breeze
Overcast.
in the afternoon, and could sit on the patio and enjoy it. So that was a good afternoon on a Saturday, and then Sunday pretty relaxing, nice easy day. Just watch summer league and old wrestling, and just let it be a
old
calm day.
wrestling.
Oh, just watch old wrestling. It's a great way to spend a day. Let me introduce you to my co-host. He's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is a new Rod, father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
Oh man, yeah, that's crazy. Watched old wrestling. Yeah, that's how I know you're trying to get away.
Oh man, just watch old
stuff.
No,
I'd rather watch old wrestling. No, I feel you on that, man. No doubt about it. Obviously, crazy times, but I hope everybody had a great weekend. We got a lot to get into from the weekend, so we'll talk a ton of SEC Media Days. Obviously, we'll start there, and I want to get to some of the Texas roster updates as well here in this segment. But before we do any of that, though, we got the Horn headline, so we'll get you caught up and we'll get you updated, educated, and informed on all the top stories of the day, first and foremost, and then we'll come back and dive into SEC Media Days. But first, Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Rangers took their series with the Astros 2-1 over the weekend and even up the Silver Boot Series this season at 5 games apiece. Josh Smith homered twice on Sunday to secure a 4-2 win as the AL West race starts to tighten up as we head into All-Star Week. Going into the break, the Rangers now sit 4 games behind the Astros, while Houston is only a game behind the Mariners for the lead in the division. MLB All-Star Week festivities continue tonight in Arlington with the Home Run Derby. Contestants this year include Gunnar Henderson, Alex Bohm, Bobby Witt Jr., Marcel Osuna, Jose Ramirez, Adolis Garcia, Teoscar Hernandez, and 2-time Home Run Derby champion Pete Alonso. They're altering the rules this year to take the top 4 home run totals from the first round as opposed to head-to-head format for the first round as in years past. And day 1 of the MLB draft took place yesterday with the Guardians taking Travis Bazzana as the number 1 overall pick. 2 Texas recruits are taking the first round, with the Tigers selecting Bryce Rainier at number 11 and Westlake grad Theo Gillen being picked at number 28 by the Rays. The Longhorns also extended their streak of having a player selected in every MLB draft since 1965, with Jared Thomas being picked 42nd overall by the Colorado Rockies. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Yeah, bringing up the Longhorns, or at least some of the commits that were drafted, and then Jared Thomas, congrats to him, being drafted 42nd overall in the draft to the Colorado Rockies. One of the trends I noticed in the draft, and I heard some conversations about it, so I went and did some extra research, and it is fascinating. Some people think this trend may last, and maybe it's not, but for the first time in history, of the Major League Baseball draft, at least in dating back to 1965, the first 8 picks were college products. The Pirates had the first high school player picked at number 9. And some people believe, hey man, this is because of NIL and the investment now in college baseball, that you're getting more and more of those high school prospects who are deciding, nope, I'd rather go to the college level. There's more investment in development at the college level as well. And so now not only did you get the top 8 picks, but 13 of the top 15 in this year's draft for college players. But some people are on the other side saying this is just an aberration. This is an outlier. This is not something that's going to last. I think these are in baseball. I don't know. Maybe we can go look at. I think it's cyclical. I think there was a time. I remember my man Kevin Dunn talking about this. Like, he was like, no, all the best players came from college at one point, and then all the best players came from high school, and then it kind of went back and forth. And now it's the pendulum seems to be swinging back. But I think now you'll just probably get a healthy mix of both because of NIL and because of the opportunities that, obviously being a pro provides. But now that you can get the college level, I think now, especially with the new financial framework that's going to take place, where you can give players even more money, I just think now you'll get a little bit more balance than you've had. I do think you'll get the best of both worlds. I think you'll get a healthy mix from high school. I think you'll get a healthy mix of guys that decide to go to college because the college game is healthier than it's ever been in forever. I think that's obviously another sign of it.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's part of it too of people copy what's working, and so like Paul Skeens having the season he's having coming out of college right now, and basically skipping through the minors and the All-Star game starter pitching. Wyatt Langford playing one season in the minors and coming up and being an impact on the Rangers roster. There's more and more stories of these guys basically coming from college, almost ready to play in the majors, and being able to go up so quick. And when you see those stories, that general managers and owners will look at that and go, why are we taking a high school kid? It's going to take 4 or 5 seasons to get him into the majors, and we don't even know if he's ever really going to be the guy because we're taking a high school kid. So why don't we take somebody we know is good from college, and then we can take him. And so you do that until 2 or 3 years, 4 years down the road, some of those high school kids start to come out, and then they start playing in the majors. And every owner and general manager goes, why are we taking some kid that we already know is full potential? We go get this great player and we can pay him less, and then he can go. And so I think there is a bit of it being copycat as well. And that goes into the cyclical part of it of whatever's happening in the league kind of can help dictate what you're going to take in those early picks. There's also so many rounds, in MLB draft where, you can kind of take a fair balance of both, and it's which ones are going to take early. How are you going to take your money and decide to spend your money for rookies? And like, it's just it's a much different draft than the NFL or NBA draft, which most people will be more familiar with. So it happens differently, but I could imagine that there's part of it that is just a copycat kind of world, that you see the success of some of the college players right now. The people that did, because of NIL, spend an extra year or two in college. They went and then refined the craft instead of going for 1 year and then coming out, stayed for 2 or 3, and really, instead of spending those years in the minors, spend them in college and could immediately get that return on investment for the people getting drafted. So, I think there's just a couple examples you've seen of recently of really good players getting drafted and then coming up quickly, that if I was an owner or a general manager, I'd go, especially if I'm a general manager in today's sports landscape, I don't want to draft somebody that I'm not, I might be fired by the time they get there.
That's true.
I'll draft somebody and go, he'll be on my roster in 2 years.
I get credit for him. Because you don't get credit for the guy, even though you drafted him. Yeah. Once you're fired, you don't get credit for him, even though you drafted him. It's like everybody just moves on. They don't even think you had an eye for talent at that point. But then the person that's actually the GM at the time, they'll get credit for developing them. Yeah. As opposed to you getting credit for drafting them. So I'm totally with you on that. That's kind of a selfish incentive for them, but it makes a lot of sense.
And then you also get thrown in, you draft from college, you probably get them a little bit more mature, and they've already been around different settlements. They've already had a little bit of money now because of NIL, so it's a different type of maturity. So you look at a guy like the Astros starting first baseman right now, John Singleton, is a guy that was a top prospect when they drafted him, but that was 9 years ago, and he basically busted out of the league because he had some other issues in his life and some demons in his life. He figures everything out, comes back, and now he's batting, I believe, over 300 for the Astros and playing in a big piece of it. After Jose Abreu had a really bad start to the season, the Astros are able to find a guy in Singleton. But it's a great story that he has. But that's also the piece of when you're drafting really young guys, that sometimes it's a lot to go from you're in high school and then you're not in the majors, but you got paid. You got a payday because you're a high draft pick. And then you're riding in buses, sharing, rooms with other guys that are older than you. And it's just a crazy world. We know we work with Harge, who spent a lot of time in the minors, and the stories he's told us about that. There's a lot that goes into it that I could see why you'd lean one way, but I'm with you. I think it'll fade back the other when a couple of these college players miss, and then a couple of high school kids all of a sudden come out of the woodwork and do some great stuff, and then all of a sudden, why are we not doing that?
Yeah, no, you're right about that. It is. It definitely, that's one of the reasons it goes back and forth, because all it takes is 1 or 2 examples. The NFL's famous for it, where it's just a copycat league. 1 or 2 examples, then everybody's trying to do it. But yeah, to your point about the All-Star game, at Tuesday's All-Star game, there will be 10 starters who came through the American Player Development Pipeline, and 7 of them are products of 4-year colleges. So just starting to see those success stories like you said, and then that's easy for an owner or a GM to go, hey man, that's the route. Look at these guys.
Yeah.
Let's do more of that. So I think that's the reason for the trend. But I think, like I said, because of NIL, because of the new changing landscape of college sports, I think you're going to get more and more of a healthy balance. And it's like I said, some guys want to go for the college experience. Like you said, they don't want to go to the major leagues, get paid, and then somebody throw them on into the minor league system, and it's like, well, this is not really the life that I really want to live. I'm getting paid, but I mean, my quality of life is not great here. I'm just grinding out in the minors, and you never know how long that's going to last, depending on your developmental rate as a player. You go to college, you're still being developed, but your quality of life is way better now that you're getting paid through NIL and new financial framework. I mean, you're living pretty damn good if you're that high profile of a player.
And not only that, there's a weird part of the minor leagues where a lot of it isn't necessarily about winning. Like, you want to win games, but it's not necessarily about winning. It's about development.
Yeah.
And so you're in places where you have pitchers who a pitcher has 4 pitches and they tell him to go out and pitch 2. So we want you to work on your fast and your curve. So that's it. That's all you're throwing tonight. And you're going to try. So the guy will give up more hits, so he goes, I want to go to college where the coaches, everybody wants to win. So it's more fun for me to go out there, and I'll develop in myself and I'll build that way. But I'm at least trying to play for wins and trying to play for conference championships and titles and whatever else I can do.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that. That is freaky. Yeah, it's like track is like that. Track is like that. They're like, no, I don't want you to push yourself today. We're trying to peak at the right time.
Yeah.
Working on this, working on that. Yeah.
I only want you to swing at fastballs. I only want you to swing at breaking pitches. Yeah. Stuff like that where you're like, or if we don't want you to swing at anything, just sit there and watch the ball and take a strikeout. Just sit there and watch it. Stuff like that can happen in the minors because they're trying to teach you, and I get it, and it works, but it's also just a different process for top picks, for super competitive people that are at that level, that sometimes you may say, if I can make $1 million playing college baseball, and I'll still get my MLB money on the other side, but I can make my money, live comfortably, and try and compete for titles, why would I not want to go to one of those schools and do that, and then get on a bus and go around whatever town I'm in that I've never been to in my life, and hope that I get the call up and hope that the team is ready. Or I may get put on a team that wants to keep me down because they want to keep player control for longer. And so I get stuck.
And you have to do that anyway, right? If you get there. But at least but you can still enjoy yourself and make money while the college experience. I just think, I'm with you. I think more and more guys are making that decision and that determination.
And I think more and more guys are staying for a couple more years, where you used to see it like a guy would go to college for 1 year and leave, and then you would leave, and then now there's a couple of guys that are staying 2 or 3 years
because he was struggling. It was like, man, why am I here struggling when I could be making a lot of money? And it's just like that was a no-brainer. Now it's like, no, I'm actually making a lot of money. I'm not struggling in college. This is actually pretty good quality of life. Like you said, I'm competing at a really high level.
Yeah.
You're at the pro level. I can tell you right now, very different than college. You play. You form bonds at the pro level, but I mean, they got their own families, they got stuff to do. So you don't live with each other like you do in college. Like, you live with your teammates.
Yeah.
You live with them. You go to class with them. You go to practice with them. You go out with them. Like, there's nothing like forming that. You're around them all damn day.
Yes.
Like, the whole damn day. Like, you don't do that in the pros. You're around them for a good amount of time, but you don't live with them. And that's why the college experience, once you live, if it's like you said, really good, now they're making good money, that, oh man, those guys are like, no, I'll deal with this for 1 more year. This is good. Yes. This is a pretty good situation because I'm having a lot of fun. I'm cultivating my craft, but also I'm making money, but it's a good experience, as opposed to these guys. They know guys who have been in the minor leagues, and they have representatives that can tell them, oh no, you don't want to do that. That you don't want to go to the minors. You don't want to just make money and just be put in the minors and be going to podunk towns all across the country to play.
Yeah.
No,
you'd
rather play at this really nice college and have all these really nice college girls you can go to class with and hang out with and drive your now really nice car in your really nice apartment in college for a couple of years.
Your agent will walk in and go, well, if you get drafted, these are the 6 teams that are interested in you. 3 of them have really bad farm systems, and you're risking that. Or you can stay another year and everything will be good, and you're not risking that. And the money that they're going to offer you this year is this much, which we think we get a little bit more if you go in, and especially if you're at an SEC school and you compete for a title, you maybe go a little bit higher. There's a lot of, there's a lot of pieces to it. But yeah, it's an interesting trend, but it would not surprise me if it does at some point in the next few years. You start to see more high school kids go again, because that is just as cyclical in how the world of sports works.
Yeah. All right, we'll get back to more college baseball conversation, of course, or at least more baseball conversation, because you got the All-Star game, you got the draft happening. But let's get to this Texas. We'll talk about the Texas football roster. Just a couple of updates on it that I thought were really interesting. So I think the biggest story weight-wise, and this is kind of one of the only real things you can gain from looking at the roster, is Sadir Mitchell. Now, reportedly, they say now Sadir Mitchell is 350 pounds.
Yes.
Which, ladies and gentlemen, that would mean he lost 22 pounds. Since, remember in spring, the big topic was, hey, man, he's way too heavy. He's not T'Vondre Sweat. We don't know if he can be effective with that kind of carrying that kind of weight. And so it looks like they got him down to 350. If that is indeed the case, that's really good for him. To get his weight down. And I left the spring game thinking that he didn't look. I didn't think he looked that bogged down by the weight. I don't think he's T'Vondre Sweat who can carry 360 and still move like a dancing bear. I don't think he's that kind of guy. But I thought he carried the 370. I didn't think he looked like 370 out there. So hopefully the 350, man, that's a lot of weight for a D tackle to lose. So that's a good sign. That's probably the biggest I think the biggest headline from the roster.
And I'll throw in too, you want to start your season a little bit lighter than you're probably going to finish it, because you're going to put on some weight throughout the season. For a big guy like that, you're probably going to put on some weight during the season, because you're going to have rough days, you're going to have pushes, so you're going to be working out and pushing hard, but you're also going to be in the gym every day, you're going to be putting on muscle. I could imagine that you'd rather start at 350 than start at 370 and push up to 380. 390. I mean, we heard what they were saying, the rumors of what T'Vondre Sweat weighed in the championship game.
Yeah, they said he was upwards of probably close to 370 something, like 375.
Yeah.
370, maybe pushing 380. And I was like,
so I think that you could possibly say, we start here, and then if you go up, we'll go up and we'll try and manage it as we go. But let's not start really high, because it could still go higher.
No, you're right about that. I mean, and I would think they'd be really strict on them during the season, but it's really tough on those guys. I don't know what they want his actual playing weight to be at. Imagine this, whatever he's comfortable with, but that's a good sign. That was also another big man that lost some weight. Cam Williams. Looks like based on their metric, even though he's still one of the biggest humans on the team, looks like he's 335. I mean, that would have him down about 25, 27 pounds or so from what he was listed at on the last roster. So that's a good sign. DJ Campbell is down 20 pounds as well. He's down to 330. So it looks like they are trying to slim down their O-line a little bit, the big humans, but they want to be big and light on their feet. So a lot of the offensive linemen, I mean, they look like they're down. It maybe down the most significantly of anybody is the D tackle, Sadir Mitchell, and I think Cam Williams are probably the biggest weight loss. That's great for both those guys.
Yeah,
I mean, really good. Like I said, DJ Campbell is probably next. He's at a 20-pound weight difference. Colin Simmons now at 245. So he has gained about 10 to 12 pounds already. They've put on his frame. I mean, he just got there.
Yeah.
So they put in some work. They're trying to beef him up. I think they want him to see some reps as a freshman.
Yeah.
And at 245, he's looking like he can do that. Zena Umeazulu is at 260, listed at 260. He was at 235, so that is significant weight gain for him, up to 260. There's some other young guys that like Brandon Baker. We talked about the O-line. Remember, he came in at really light. He came in at under 300. I remember looking at that. Now he's 315 for the young offensive tackle. That's really good. Him packing on some good weight. I've noticed a couple of the young guys. Wardale Mack. He's up about 15 to 20 pounds from where, maybe 15 pounds from where he was when he first came in. So he's putting on some good weight early. I've noticed that Trey Owens was down actually. So he slimmed down a little bit. He was at around 235. I think that he slimmed down to around 220 is what they had him listed at. So he's down, which, maybe it's him getting off the kind of the baby weight. The
Yeah.
teenage boy body coming into the grown man body. Maybe it's a little bit more, he's probably a little bit more cut up and defined. But maybe losing some of that baby weight. We saw Quinn do some of that too, early on, transition, lose some weight. I bet Trae Owens will probably pack some of that back on. So those are the ones that I noticed that were kind of stood out to me.
Yeah,
So go ahead.
I saw Quinn put on some weight.
Yeah,
Quinn is back up to 210.
Okay.
But apparently it's supposed to be good weight now. It's supposed to be all that muscle that he was trying to bulk up a little bit. I think he was 195 at a point last season. He got down to 195 when he was getting smaller, so back up to 210, trying to put it on where he lost some weight that he felt was bad weight, but now he's trying to put on good weight. I'm sure we'll see him on Wednesday at media days. So we'll be looking to see if his frame's a little bit bigger.
Yeah, where did he pack it? Is it below? Did he pack it up top?
Yeah.
Is it I would like in his show. I would like to see that too. Where did he pack the extra weight on? For quarterbacks, that's really important. A lot of quarterbacks like to stay away from the upper body if they're gonna gain some weight and try to get it in their lower body.
Yeah.
Maybe get some junk in the trunk, if you will. Quinn does not have any junk in the trunk. I mean, that's what Bam Bam Sam had. He built like that. That's why a lot of quarterbacks, you want that base. Quinn doesn't really have that base. He's pretty slender for a QB, so I wonder where he'll pack that weight. So those are the biggest humans now on your offensive line now, and the big humans pancake factory is Connor Stroh is listed at 350. Andre Kojo is 340. So Connor Stroh is 6'7", 350. That's a big human. Kojo is 6'6", 340. Cam Williams now 6'5", 335. Neto Umeozulu is 6'4", 330. Then that's DJ Campbell 6'3", 330. So your big humans are slimming down a little bit. It's like Sark is slimming down with the big humans. I will say that the D line bringing in the Alex January is up to 315. That's actually a really good sign too for the D tackle. And the guys they brought in, Jermaine Lole, he's at 315, 6'3", 315. Bill Norton is at 335, 6'6", 335 for him. So those are and Alfred Collins is listed at 320. That's the beef on your defensive front there. All right, those are the roster updates. We come back, we'll get into questions that I want to hear Sark and the attendees asked at SEC Media Days. We'll get into that, and also some SEC trends that I've noticed, some of the more successful plays and concepts this season in the SEC, and which one of those concepts that Sark actually likes and are some of the favorites in his staple of plays. And we'll talk about, is he more successful, or is he less effective or more effective in those particular concepts and plays. We'll get into that a little bit when we go behind the burnt orange curtain. But coming back, we're right back here on the Rodcast featuring my man Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming right back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Austin is a great city. One of the reasons people keep moving to Austin, and yes, that affects the traffic, but that's also means the city is thriving. All right, it continues to grow, and just like our friends over at Ironworkers Local Union 482, they're one of the reasons that Austin continues to grow and thrive. Many of the iconic landmarks that we love in this city were actually created and built by the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482, like the Pennybacker Bridge and DKR Stadium. The folks over at Ironworkers Local 42 don't just go to the office, they build it. So if you're looking for an exciting employment opportunity or you want a refreshing career change, right now it's the perfect time for you to become a member of Ironworkers Local 482. They're hiring over 3,000 people for a huge project right here in Central Texas. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that helped shape the future of our great city. So go online and apply today at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some SEC Media Day conversation. Texas will be taking three players. We know that: Quinn Ewers, Kelvin Banks, Jade Barron. Of course, Sark is going to be there answering questions as well during SEC Media Days. And I was thinking about what I know Sark's gonna be asked a ton of stuff. All these guys, by the way, because they gotta do the circuit. So they'll, be up there, obviously on stage at one point. Then they got to do the breakout sessions with the written session of the media. Then they'll be doing little breakout sessions with different sessions of radio and at different platforms. So they'll be asked a lot of different things. I was thinking about what question to me would I want answered the most by each of them at SEC Media Days. And for Sark, there are a couple of things for Sark, right? Two questions. And I think he'll be asked about one of them. I know for sure, because I already know a couple of members of the media that are like, hey, I'm curious about this. Red zone offense. What did you study in the offseason? What did you find out? What's your plan to fix red zone offense? Do you have a plan to fix red zone offense? And I'm sure he's not going to give you obviously detail about it, but just want to know how much of his off season was devoted to it, because it was one of the only things that stood out last year as problematic. I mean, you didn't have a lot of problems. You were a great team last season. It was one of the only things that stood out as problematic, and because of the trend of it, my concern would be: is it, is it something that you found a solution for? Because during the season, he did not. He couldn't figure it out. Nobody could figure out why Texas was so inefficient in the red zone. And they did have games where they were better toward the end of the season. They were better in the Oklahoma State game and that Big 12 title game. I think that's probably the best red zone offense they had all season long. So I'm not saying there weren't bright spots, but the trend is clear. 2021, top 5 red zone offense. 2023, 120th in country and touchdown percentage in red zone, 90th in red zone offense. And so as the team has gotten better, red zone offense has gotten worse. And there's no doubt it is something that he's been focused on. And I'm sure it's emphasized his offseason because it cost them basically their 2 losses were because of red zone offense. So one of the reasons that you lost was because of red zone offense. And it's got to be, like I said, it's got to be to him a really just a point of frustration because he is a brilliant offensive mind. There's no doubt about that. As your team has gotten better, and last year you had the biggest O-line in the Big 12. You had, the NFL players at all skill positions. Have 3 NFL drafted wide receivers. You had a tight end that was drafted in the NFL, running back that was drafted into the NFL, and yet Texas couldn't figure out how to be more effective and efficient in the red zone. Only half of the time in the red zone they score a touchdown. It's like 50.8%, 120th in the country. You were at 75% in 2021. You were 3rd in the country. That's with think about the pieces they had in 2021 compared to what they have now. O-line was a struggle. Remember, they couldn't even first spring game. They couldn't even have a real spring game because they didn't have the offensive line depth. Quarterback, you were rotating Casey Thompson and Hudson Card. Wide receiver, a true freshman came in and was easily your best wide receiver you had to throw to at the time. You just didn't have many weapons at all and much depth, and yet you were really effective in the red zone. So I think most of it is, like I said, Bijan Rojo hangover has always been kind of my theory because it's the only thing that really makes sense. Nothing else makes sense. Nothing else. You can just say, oh man, the O-line was really bad at being able to reset the line of scrimmage, right? They couldn't get a push. Okay. Then why was the passing game so ineffective in the red zone? I mean, that's not really a push thing up front. That's a whole nother issue. If that wasn't working, then why keep doing the jumbo package? Just say screw the jumbo package. You know what? We're going to spread them out, and we're going to work the perimeter and the edges here, which you could easily do with your NFL, your top 10 draft, soon to be drafted left tackle. You know what I mean? So it just didn't. It's truly a mystery, I think, to Sark and to me. So I would ask him, hey, what'd you figure out? How'd you come up with a solution, and do you have one? Because it'll be interesting to see if he has one. Then if this trend continues, they can't get worse. They won't get worse. I mean, they're 90th right now in the country. If they get worse, then the season will not go as everyone is predicting. So there'll definitely be an improvement. How much of an improvement? And number 2, I'll ask Sark. I want someone to ask Sark, and I think they will, because he does this every offseason. What NFL team did you visit? Like, you usually go to visit an NFL team. Maybe he didn't have time this offseason because the schedule for head coaches so hectic. But what NFL teams you visit? Because he's always trying to siphon ideas and gather new, creative concepts from the NFL. He's not afraid to admit, oh no, I steal those concepts from some of the best offensive minds that give him inspiration. So who was it this year? And he's talked about it being the Rams before and talked about visiting 49ers with Shano. I hope it's Miami. I hope it's Miami, and I hope it's San Fran, because he stays in the Mick Shanahan coaching tree. He says that. Or let it be Green Bay. And the reason I throw out those offenses because those are the best, kind of consistently the best red zone offenses over the last like 3 or 4 years. Last year, San Fran was your number 1 touchdown percentage offense in the red zone. Miami was 3rd last season. In 2022, strange year, they were not. Cowboys actually were, and Kansas City, they were your top 2 red zone offense in terms of touchdown percentage in the red zone. So hey, maybe you can go visit Andy Reid. You got Xavier Worthy up there now. Perfect. That would be good in the future. Maybe that was something that could have happened in the offseason. When you look at red zone percentage, NFL team red zone percentage in 2021, San Fran was number 4. So like that, San Fran was number 4 there. And in 2020, Green Bay was number 1 and San Fran was number 7. But still close to 70% of touchdown percentage in the red zone. So it looks like a lot of the teams, or at least minds that he admires offensively, are doing pretty well in the red zone in the NFL. He has a pro style offense. It's West Coast. It has all types of connective tissue, as we've talked about with the Max Shanahan tree of offenses. So if I was Sark, that would have been where I would have spent some time in the offseason. So that would be those are my 2 questions I'd have for Sark. That's it. And it's basically kind of both related to the red zone, because there's nothing really else on offense that's a concern. And now that's a big concern. That's a big issue, but nothing a huge concern. I'll tell you something that's a kind of a concern. I should, you know what? I'll ask Quinn this. This is my Quinn question. What's up with the batted balls in the last 2 games of the season? Right? He had 5 batted balls through 12 regular season games. And that damn Gundy figured something out. Gundy figured out a couple things. Oklahoma State got blown out, but Gundy they did some things that worked against Texas. Longhorn fans noticed because that's why they respect Gundy so much. Quinn had 5 batted balls the entire regular season, but had 2 versus Oklahoma State, then 3 versus Washington, and then had 1 spring game that led to a touchdown. Now that one was a little different because I think that was a breakdown in pass protection. The Washington ones and the Oklahoma State ones were more passing window ones. They were passing window batted passes and deflections, which is interesting because I wonder if, and I was talking to Coach Bob Shipley about this, and he says, "Yeah, man, you can." He said, "And you probably can do it better with artificial intelligence these days with AI." There's the coach's view, where you got the all 22 view, and then there's like in terms of your coaching film and what you're breaking down. But then there's another view of behind the quarterback view. There's a film behind the quarterback, and then there's one like really behind the defense. They can kind of show you both angles from ground level, field level, and with that view, you really can see passing windows. And on certain concepts, which Sark likes, certain RPO concepts, right? Certain quick game concepts, passing windows are going to be pretty close to being the same all the time. It's the same. Think about how precise offenses are. They're running routes at a certain depth they want a precision depth every time. Quarterbacks, they have their drop broken down to steps as well, right? So when they hit this foot, they want the ball to be out at this time. That's what the quick game and RPO is all about. Now, RPO, the thing is interesting because obviously you have to go through the mesh point manipulation there, and whether it's going to be a run or a pass option. And then as the quarterback decides to keep it and throw it, he's going to be throwing it from sometimes an awkward angle, but he's going to be throwing usually through the same windows because it's the same route, same tag that he's throwing to. It's a glance, it's a slant, it's whatever they decide that they want to tag it with, and maybe they're going to tag it with a hitch. So if that's the case, and you as a coach know this, you can pretty much break down the percentages. All right, you know what? Every time they run this RPO, these RPOs, they throw through this window. D tackle, D in, and we run this stunt, this place from there, they throwing through that window. If you're rushing through that window and you see that quarterback pull it and you're ready to throw it, don't stop rushing, get your hands up. Just stop rushing, get your hands up right there. It's your window. He's throwing through your window. Just stop, hands up. And it was really effective versus Washington. Oklahoma State, because we blew them out, it wasn't a big deal, but Oklahoma State was really effective with it. And the trend is, like I said, you had 5 the entire regular season, but you had 5 in the postseason. I don't even want to count the one in the spring game. I think that was more pass protection, but technically, you had 1 in the spring game. The SEC, what's the SEC known as? Line of scrimmage league. They really know what they're doing line of scrimmage. The Big 12 is not even a line of scrimmage league. The Big 12 is just a and by the way, Washington, they didn't even meet the blue chip ratio. 50% of the roster is not even blue chip. They got as many 3-stars. They got 4 and 5 stars. So they are not considered a dominant line of scrimmage program. You're about to go into a line of scrimmage league where line play is what they do. That's what they specialize in terms of batted passes and passing windows. How do you work on that if you're a quarterback? Can you work on that? Is that just arm angles? Is that a concern? Has it been a concern? Did you look at it? That's that and wide receiver chemistry. How many times you go? How many throwing sessions you have with your wide receivers, and how's the chemistry with those guys? That would probably be my Quinn questions. The batted passes thing is strange, don't you think? It's interesting. I think it's Gundy that figured something out, and Gundy's just he's a madman. He's a hell of a strategist and a tactician. And I think I think he found a little cheat code there. And I think Washington was like, that is good. I think they're doing that on purpose. Because all they do is go back and watch. And you're not going to get all of them, but you can go see if the D linemen are deciding to go, oh, no, they're throwing. Okay, get your hands up. Stop rushing, hands up. And Washington did it brilliantly. And Longhorn fans, we had never seen. We're like, oh, that's batting a lot of passes down from Quinn early on, killing these drives, putting them in third, second and long, and third and long situations. Huh, interesting. Just wonder if the SEC coaches will see the same thing and go, you know what? Let's go. We ain't going to get it's quick game. The RPO is just a combination of the quick game and the run game. And then quick game is out. The ball's out in three seconds. 60% of your passing game is quick game. That's the NFL. Those are NFL numbers. College is probably the same thing. So you're not going to get there. I mean, you're no superhuman. You ain't going to get there unless you're an X-Man, some Marvel's character. So what do? Well, get your hands up. Keep your eyes up, get your hands up, so you can see the quarterback and what obviously where his throwing lane is. So you might start getting that strategy with Quinn. I don't know what the counter is. I haven't thought about really what the counter is to that. And I would ask Quinn, what's the counter? How do you work on it? You just adjust your arm angle, and then are you going to be accurate adjusting your arm angle? Because Quinn can throw from all these freaky little off-platform throws. Do you just and that's kind of what they're talking about with maybe the mechanics are. I need you to get your base underneath you, align your footwork with your throwing motion, and quit just trying to whip those RPOs from different arm angles and actually try to deliver it with the football over the top. I don't know. I'm not a quarterback specialist, but I notice trends. You guys know that. I'll give you that.
Yeah. throwing a few pump fakes every now and then to see if you're getting them to bite.
Maybe. That's a good one. I like that. Yeah. They didn't make him look like a fool. And then Coach Shipley was like, he said it's on the old lineman. He was like, no, they need to punch.
Yeah.
When that dude puts his hands up and exposes his body, you need to knock his block off. You need to go through him. It's still legal. The ball, you're still blocking him. When he wants to stop and get his hands up and potentially leave his feet, take him out. And then he will not leave himself exposed like that again. He would not be just throwing his hands up and leaving himself exposed. He will. Oh no, I got to protect myself. This dude, I'll put a hand up, but
especially if you do that on a pump fake.
Yeah, dude, boom, you get knocked out.
On the ground, like, what happened? He ran for 26 yards.
Exactly. No, that's a great. And the Quinn can scramble a little bit, so maybe that is it. Maybe just once a game, you got to throw in there like, all right, we're gonna make them look really bad. O-line, they jump, you punch. They jump, get off their feet, make them pay for it. They may get the block, but they gonna think about it next time. I don't really know how you counter it. I think that may be one of the ways. All right, we'll get to. I want to get to questions about for Kelvin Banks and Jay Barron. We'll get to those a little bit later on. Also, we'll get to SEC trends. I promise you, though. I promise you, we'll get to those. I've been promising you we'll get to some more of those, even since last week, doing my deep dive research. So we'll dive into it later on. But first, let's get to the topic for the Big Fat Poll today, coming up on the other side, and we'll also learn what the musically themed day of the week is. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming back on the Horn.
Back in the Rodcast on a Monday morning, and that means it's a smooth soul Monday, playing some smooth soul music to ease you back into the work week after what was hopefully a fun, relaxing weekend for you. We'll play a little George Benson there for you, getting you kicking off a smooth soul Monday. Let's get to the big fat poll of the day today. Text line is open 512-447-3776. 512-447-3776. We'll get it posted up at the Horn ATX on X as well.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the Horn.
Big fat poll of the day today. We have our last draft of the season of the 2024. Last major draft for our four professional sports was yesterday, or at least day one. The draft is continuing. So it leads us to which number one overall pick will have the best career. 4 different sports leagues, 4 different number one overall picks. So Caleb Williams, of course, goes to the Bears. Zachary Risachet goes to the Hawks. Macklin Celebrini goes to the San Jose Sharks. And Travis Bazzana to the Cleveland Guardians.
Wow.
Those are your 4 number one overall picks. Not a lot of names other than Caleb Williams, big name. Other than that,
Caleb Williams is going to win this because
this is
like the people that go into the voting booth and just vote for the name they know.
This is,
I don't know.
But this is why I think it's an interesting poll, because I know a lot of people hate Caleb Williams.
They do, and
maybe it's because the OU game. Maybe it's because he paints his fingernails. Maybe it's because he went to USC. I don't know. I think maybe it's all of them combined.
OU, remember those are OU.
Yeah, that's what I said. The OU game.
Yeah, the OU.
Because I don't even say OU in general. I say that OU game. The game we know, right. That's the game. Yeah. Why we can hate Caleb Williams. But he's the best name value. He's clearly the biggest, because I've looked up stuff and I know the NBA well enough. Zachary Risachet is one of those guys that you say he's kind of a big, but he's another French guy, but he's not, this is a weak draft and he's a guy who could be really good. We don't really know his full potential yet. It's from the summer league games. He's a guy that he has a good basketball IQ, but he also has not looked like a superstar, really. He's looked like a good basketball player, but not somebody you see and you go, man, that's next level talent. This guy's going to be a star. So he could be good. He's also going to the Hawks, where it's going to be working with Trae Young, who is a very ball-dominant guy, so how that works out. Macklin Celebrini, the research I was doing on him is that he's a good pick, solid pick, but not necessarily destined to be an all-time great, but could be a multi-time all-star. He's a top center, so he's going to be scoring. He's in a more glamour position, so he could be pretty good, but it's not, again, one of the things I was reading was they were ranking the last 10 picks, number one overall picks, and he fell right in the middle of where everybody was ranking them. So the last 10 years in the NHL, they were saying he's about mid-range of those picks. And then Travis Bazzana is a guy that they say is really good. He's from Australia, but played in America last year, college baseball. But basically really smart, really good baseball IQ, can do a lot of things, but his physical frame isn't big. He doesn't have a ton of arm strength, so they're not sure he can really play. They think that he's got the speed for the outfield, but he can't really do it. But he has to play second base because he doesn't have the arm strength to get the ball from third. So they're saying second, but he may not be good enough to play second base either, but he's a good hitter, maybe a little bit too in his own head at points at the plate, but a good player. But you don't know if his potential is necessarily greatness because he doesn't have the frame of, when you look at Aaron Judge, you go, oh yeah, that guy could win MVP the next 10 years. Just looking at him, you can see the frame in the body. So he doesn't necessarily have that, but he could still be a very good player. Those are the guys we know about Caleb Williams. We're aware of Caleb Williams.
Yeah, we saw it. Yes, unfortunately.
So which number one overall pick, because now we have 4 of them in the 4 major American sports, which number one overall pick will have the best career?
I would say they did set Caleb Williams up with some really good skill positions around him. He's got he from that standpoint, actually, he's in a really good place for a rookie. It's just in that division, people thought the Packers would and have a setback with Jordan Love. I don't know if they will, the way it's looking. So now you got in that division, man, you got the Packers to deal with. You got the Lions to deal with, so it's not an easy division either for
No,
them.
no,
So-
they're going to be playing well, and it's the question is, the Bears have had zero luck historically with quarterbacks. So is Caleb Williams buck the trend, or does Caleb Williams have something like Justin Fields where it may not be him, it may be him, we don't know. He's also got a coach that's somewhat of a lame duck coach. They put a lot of talent around him, but Eberflus, no one really believes that he's going to be the guy, yet he's still got another year as head coach of the Bears. So you could have a regime change 1 year into Caleb Williams' career. And how does that affect you? We know with Baker Mayfield, his constant coaching changes became an issue of his development. So there's questions to be said about Caleb Williams. We know name value. He's number one name value in this poll.
No, you're right about that. Yeah, but organization-wise, they haven't had a great quarterback since Sid Luckman or something like that. You had to go back. I know some people say Jay Cutler, but I don't know if Jay Cutler was great. Jay Cutler was good.
If Jay Cutler's your best.
Yeah. And I don't even know how. I got to go back and see how good Sid Luckman was. I actually am not sure about that. I'm going to lie to you. I don't know the Sid Luckman stats off top like that.
Who's the quarterback who did Super Bowl Shuffle? Is it McMahon? Or?
Oh, yeah. McMahon. Yep, you're right. Yeah,
so,
Jim McMahon. Yeah, I mean, that's a defense.
I mean, he could rap poorly and dance poorly. So, I mean, he's got that going for him.
He can rap poorly and dance poorly. No, I mean, it is a good question, though, actually, because everything is working against Caleb Williams. He'd have to do something unprecedented, which is thrive as a Bears quarterback, which we just haven't seen it really happen. All right, so good stuff there. All right, we come back. We'll dive into NFL. Matter of fact, on top of the topic for the big fat poll of the day, we'll get into running back rankings. You're not going to be surprised where the Cowboys running back room is ranked. Also, Mina Kimes does a great job doing with her NFL analysis. She recently brought up something about CJ Stroud that I told you guys would definitely become it definitely will become a trend. It will definitely become something that more and more teams utilize against CJ Stroud because of his rookie season, and she's on board with that. So we'll talk about that too coming up and dive into Rod's rant of the day as well. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a smooth soul Monday edition of the Rodcast. That's my man Patrick, my co-host, the Idealionaire. He plays jams intended to make what is usually a rough, really rough transition from the stress-free, fun-filled weekend to the very stressful, hectic work week. A lot of meetings, a lot of traffic. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes adulting. We try to avoid that on the weekends, and that's what the work week is all about. To make that transition as smooth as possible, Patrick presents to you a Smooth Soul Monday. So we appreciate all of his creativity with Smooth Soul Monday. We also appreciate his creativity in helping us get the topic for the big fat poll of the day. So Patrick, give the folks the topic for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll of the day today. Which number one overall pick will have the best career? The MLB draft round 1 was yesterday, so we finally got all 4 major sports in America. NFL, NBA, NHL, and MLB have all had their drafts this offseason. So Caleb Williams, Zachary Reese-Shea, Macklin Celebrini, and Travis Bazzana.
I know. Just because nobody really knows those other guys. There ain't nothing against them. I'm sure.
No, and this is the fun part is there's a bunch of people that if I didn't tell you which sport those last 3 were in, they don't even know what sport that. I guarantee there's people in the poll who may vote against Caleb Williams, not sure which sport that person is going to be in.
And honestly, I'm not judging them for that because unless I listened to you, I probably would have been in that group too. I mean,
I wouldn't have known Macklin Celebrini and Travis.
You know the basketball because you watch Summer League.
I watched the draft, so I'm watching. Yeah. So I know about those, but yeah, Macklin Celebrini and Travis Bazzana, I wouldn't have off the top of my head been able to tell you which one was NHL and MLB.
Yeah, man. No, that's interesting. I want to say Caleb Williams, but you're right. That's only because that's the only one I have extensive knowledge of. So that's why I want to say him. But you know what? We'll get into it because I actually think I did a take about this, so I'm trying to find the research on it. But I do think Caleb Williams has been set up really well. He's been set up really well for success.
I will say this.
I'll get into that a little bit.
Of the research I did, because especially Monday big fat polls are usually a little bit easier because I have a little bit more time to look them up. That basically the only one that has consistent talk of superstar potential is Caleb Williams.
Yes, they've been saying that he could be generational, right?
Yes, so they're saying he could be generational. Everyone else, they're saying could be a good player, really good, but they don't necessarily list him as a generational player.
Agreed. Yeah, that's a great point. You know what? Because I agree with you there. Those other guys, I imagine if they were, at least you'd have heard more buzz about them if they were considered generational, and that's what Caleb Williams brings to the table. Okay, no, it's really, like I said, good conversation. I'm going to find my research, and actually, I want to get into it a little bit more. Why Caleb Williams? Actually, there is even, aside from obviously our ignorance of the other players listed or athletes listed here in the topic for the big fat poll today, he has been put in a better place than almost 80% of the first round picks in the modern era of the draft. Quarterbacks, for number one overall quarterbacks, I should say.
Yes.
In the first round of the NFL draft, like that. That is actually, I don't know if you can say it's a fact, but there is definitive research to back that up, and I'll give you some of that.
I mean, skill position-wise, he's in a better position than most quarterbacks in the league.
That's what I'm saying. Like exactly,
not rookies, just most quarterbacks.
Yep.
I mean, to say he's 3 deep at wide receiver, a lot of teams don't have that.
Yeah.
I mean, with Romeo Odunze, DJ Moore, and Keenan Allen all on that team right now, and then your running back core is DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert, and Roshan Johnson.
Like I said, offensively, like I said, it's a pretty loaded team. All right, so we'll get to that because I want to get back to it in a little bit more detail. It's a good question, which they all are, by my man Patrick for the topic for the big fat poll today. We'll also get into some other NFL news, notes, and nuggets. Sharp football, Warren Sharp, he ranked all the positions, but we won't go through all the positions, but where he ranked the Cowboys at the running back position, I think is really interesting in a conversation worth having. So we'll dive into that. Also, CJ Stroud, a lot of expectations for CJ Stroud. Mina Kimes actually had an interesting basically analysis prediction about what CJ Stroud's going to see coming up this season. And it's something that we've already talked about on the show, but she brings up too. I want to get into that a little bit. And we'll also have Rod's rant of the day. That'll be also an NFL related rant. So we'll dive into a lot of different topics. But first, let's get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed on all the top stories of the day with my man, Patrick Davis, and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Rangers took their series with the Astros 2-1 over the weekend and even up the Silver Boot series this season at 5 games apiece. Josh Smith homered twice on Sunday to secure a 4-2 win in the AL West race. Starts to tighten up as we head into All-Star Week. Going into the break, the Rangers now sit 4 games behind the Astros, while Houston is only a game behind the Mariners for the lead in the division. MLB All-Star Week festivities continue tonight in Arlington with the Home Run Derby. Contestants this year include Gunnar Henderson, Alec Boehm, Bobby Witt Jr., Marcelo Zuna, Jose Ramirez, Adolis Garcia, Teoscar Hernandez, and 2-time Home Run Derby champion Pete Alonso. They're altering the rules this year to take the top 4 home run totals from the first round as opposed to the head-to-head format for the first round as in years past. And day 1 of the MLB draft took place yesterday with the Guardians taking Travis Bazzana as a number 1 overall pick. 2 Texas recruits are taking the first round, with the Tigers selecting Bryce Rainier at number 11 and Westlake grad Theo Gillen being picked at number 28 by the Rays. The Longhorns also extended their streak of having a player selected in every MLB draft since 1965, with Jared Thomas being selected 42nd overall by the Colorado Rockies. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick. Headlines, appreciate those. All right, a couple of things that I want to get to here. We'll get to, like I said, some of the other conversation in regards to the topic for the Big Fat Poll today, because I want to come back to that topic about Caleb Williams a little bit. But let's get into, first of all, these Warren Sharp running back rankings for the Cowboys. I saw these this past weekend. I thought to myself, we've been saying for a while, I'm glad now somebody with the actual rankings have going to the data and have their own system to try to rank their running back rooms around the NFL. So this is Warren Sharp Football Analysis, data scientist, and he ranked all the running back rooms, claims that the Cowboys are 32nd. Lowest spot, it says the lowest spot on the Dallas roster is running back, which finished dead last in our rankings, a drop of 15 spots from a year ago. Tony Pollard has moved on to the Titans after posting a career low yards per carry in 2023, and Zeke has returned after a 1-year stint in New England. Yeah, it says the Giants actually are 31st, so the NFC East is just not looking good at the running back position. We were talking about the Vegas Raiders. They might have the worst running back room. It says here they're 28th. It actually has the Chargers at tied for 28th as well in these running back rankings. The best running back room, it says, in the NFL are the 49ers. Detroit Lions are 2nd. Miami Dolphins are 3rd. Bijan Robinson, Atlanta Falcons are 4th. And the Philadelphia Eagles are 5th on this list of running back rankings. But to the point about the Cowboys, and we've been talking about this for a while, they got to do something. I think the running back room for them is so lackluster. It's such a poor running back room that I do think it could ultimately affect the overall offense, and it could affect Dak, because you could end up just getting an unbalanced one-dimensional team. And Dak is great enough to do it on his own. He really is. I mean, I remember giving you guys a stat about Dak's straight drop back pass rate. Here it is. If you go look at just drop back passer rating, no play action, no RPOs, no screen game. He's just straight drop back. Dak Prescott 107.7 passer rating. That is the best in the NFL last season by it's by over 5 points. That's how good Dak was in straight drop back. So he could. I mean, it really could be a situation where their running game is really bad for the Cowboys, and Dak still has a great year. Matter of fact, might have statistically an even better year because they won't have even the semblance of a running game. But I don't think it'll help the team. Dak will look good because Dak will be playing for a contract potentially. Who knows? I think he'll get signed before that, but who knows? And he'll have CD, Jake Ferguson, I think Brandon Cooks could bounce back and have a really good season, but that was his first year in that Mike McCarthy, Texas coast system with Mike McCarthy as the play caller. I don't think they'll have that much of a regression, but if he doesn't have the running game, the offense overall might regress a little bit if you don't have some type of running game.
And first of all,
it.
I'm mad that you reminded me that they called it the Texas Coast Offense. I remember that.
They do.
That makes
and it
me
was
mad
successful.
Already. I know, but I hate the name so much. But
just that was official. That was from Dak.
It is, and I forgot completely about that until you just said it. No, but I agree, and I think the big issue is they're still going to be able to win games during the regular season. It goes back to that point of what you keep banging your head against the wall is: are you trying to win playoff games for real by adding talent that makes you harder to defend against really good teams? And are you going to make it to where you can be multidimensional? If you look at one of the main reasons you lost that game to Green Bay was that Green Bay was not a one-dimensional team relying on Jordan Love. They just ran the ball down your throat because they realized you had a weak run defense. And if you get the wrong matchup in the playoffs and you can play against a team that has a terrible run defense, and if you don't have a running game, there's nothing you can do about it. You just still have to throw in to their biggest strength, which would be their secondary. And you don't know. You may not have that matchup in round 1, but it may be round 2 or maybe round 3. And so just taking away abilities to do things out of sheer determination to not get it wrong, it is the frustrating part of I don't want to overpay for a running back, so we won't have a running back. Sometimes I get that, you missed out on the Amari Cooper because you traded him for a 5th and now you don't want to give. I get that you let go of some guys and you overpaid for Zeke and you made some mistakes, but you have to keep taking chances. That's what you have to be able to do. I still think they're going to do something. Like looking at what the Cowboys have done in years past to what they're looking at right now, it's hard because they normally have done a little bit more by the time we get to this point of the offseason. But it feels like they're going to be very busy when we get to training camp and we start to get into the actual preseason. And I mean, we're not that far away at this point.
No.
Training camps are about to be starting, so we'll get into that. And then the Hall of Fame game is not far behind that.
Yeah. No, you're right about
Your
that.
Hall of Fame game is August 1st.
Yeah, so that is fast, actually.
Yeah, that's when I saw that the other day and went, oh, we're 3 weeks away. Yeah, we're 3 weeks away from the Hall of Fame game.
That is crazy to think about. That's amazing. I'm happy about it. But the Cowboys need to get to work. They need to get to work. So I think they're hoping.
And that's what I say is when I think things will happen, I don't think we're 2 months away from things happening. I think in the next month, things will start happening for the Cowboys. But I agree with you. I think that you need to address the running back room. I think you need to address it last year, but at least you had Tony Pollard. But Tony Pollard ran for 4 yards per carry. Looked better at the end of the year, but 4 yards per carry is not a great. What do you want your running back to be? Not where you want your bell cow to be at 4 yards per carry. You want to be able.
You're replacing your center. You're replacing pieces on the O-line.
Yeah,
that's also going to affect the running game. It's just it's an area where the Cowboys have been dragging their feet, and I have no idea why. But I'm with you. I think in addition to all the other stuff they have to do in terms of signing their top guys, running back is also, I think it's going to be an urgent emphasis for the Cowboys come training camp. And like you said, next 2 weeks, they need to be very active in trying to figure it out. I think a trade is the best option. I would not wait on teams to cut down their roster obviously after the training camp and then pick up what essentially are other teams' throwaways and their third and fourth, string running backs. I don't think that's a good option for the Cowboys. You need not necessarily a bell cow, but you need a featured back. And I don't think you necessarily have that right now on the roster. All right. So that's Mo Cowboys conversation. I wanted to, and I've sent this sound to Patrick. Do you have that Mina Kimes sound that I sent to you a while back, Patrick? I sent that to you a couple of days ago because I wanted to get to it actually last week as when she said it. And I thought to myself, man, I've been talking about this for a while because when you have a great young quarterback, the process has been, at least with Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, those are kind of the most recent examples of it. when you have a quarterback that has an elite rookie season, and now obviously it was expected from guys like Joe Burrow, drafted number 1 overall. But when they prove themselves via their rookie season, because basically their rookie season, they see a lot of man-to-man, a lot of cover one, a lot of single high safeties, because young quarterbacks usually are accompanied with a good running game. She's one of the first things to do. All right, let's get this guy a good running game for his young quarterback. Go look at all the young quarterbacks. They try to get him a good running game, really, to help him stabilize him. Texans, by the way, didn't have that. Even more of an amazing feat for C.J. Stroud to do what he did his rookie season, because they had one of the worst running games in the NFL. But I digress. So usually teams are going to stop the running game. They devote an extra defender, put him in the box to stop the running game, and say, hey, I'm going to let this young quarterback prove himself, right? I'm not going to game plan for ghosts. If this young quarterback can prove that he can throw through some tight windows and, throw against man-to-man coverage, or throw against some of these single high looks, then we'll put another safety back and devote more numbers to defending the passing game. But I'm not going to really devote my resources, allocate resources to stop this quarterback, this young quarterback, because he hasn't proven himself. Right? Why would you do that? So that's usually the process, right? They prove themselves, and then the next season, defenses start to game plan specific for their elite skill set, right? Their elite traits, which is their ability to stretch the field vertically as a quarterback. So they put another safety back usually. And then that scares the defensive coordinators into playing 2 deep safeties and putting a ceiling, putting a roof over the defense. And that was the case for Joe Burrow. That was the case for Patrick Mahomes, case for Josh Allen. And then the quarterback, the young quarterback, has to go through the transformation of evolving their skill set to mature their skill set, and being a more patient quarterback, taking what the defense is giving you and being able to march the length of the field by, taking, whatever options the defense is going to give you, and exercising patience, which young quarterbacks don't usually have. And usually, it means you got to put together a 9 to 12 play drive instead of the usual 6 or 7 play drive, because you can't stretch the field vertically as much because they got 2 deep safeties back there, and they're just going to dare you to throw it deep into those 2 deep safeties. So the underneath will be open, the quick game will be open. But for young quarterbacks, sometimes that is a tough transition to make that leap. And Patrick Mahomes struggled with it a little bit. So did Josh Allen, and so did Joe Burrow. But obviously, those guys evolved into being still elite quarterbacks in the NFL. So they're going to do the same thing to C.J. Stroud. And here's Mina Kimes when she was asked about it. Do you have this audio of Mina? Thank you, Patrick. Here's Mina Kimes, and she's basically saying the same thing, but she's optimistic that C.J. Stroud will be able to make that transition we're talking about.
Me thinking about Mahomes' own journey after lighting the league on fire his first year. The next couple of years, as Laura, you remember all too well because we talked about it endlessly on NSL Live, defenses started playing him with that too high shell coverage, and he grew so much as a quarterback, working underneath, being patient, lowering his average depth of target. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar with Stroud, especially with this receiver corps that, of course, now has Stephon Diggs as well. Teams are going to play them that way. Now, I want to note, when Stroud faced too high last year, he was 8th in QBR, neck and neck with Lamar Jackson, so he's already very good at it. But I expect him to face it even more this season, and he's going to have to show the patience that we saw from Patrick Mahomes after his first year as a starter.
All right, there you go. And I told you guys, it's the way of the NFL. The NFL, you really can kind of predict and project what's going to happen kind of based on recent history. The best indicator and way to predict future events is to study past events. NFL in a nutshell. So that's why you're going to see it. And I'm glad Mina brought it up, because I've been telling you guys for a while. So they're ready for it. And the stuff that like I said, I studied it too. And she just brought up a couple of the stats and metrics, but he's been really good versus everything. There's not really anything that you can find where he has struggled. And even versus those looks, the too high looks that you're going to see. I mean, you can argue, I want to say Warren Sharp, when he did his breakdown, most efficient quarterbacks versus too high looks, he had C.J. Stroud as number 1. ahead of Brock Purdy and Jordan Love. Seems like there's a trend there. Those McShanahan offenses. But he had, Tua was number 5. Matthew Stafford's number 6. No, Joe Burrow actually number 7. We were just talking about that. Josh Allen's number 8. Most efficient quarterbacks versus 2 high looks. So it's one of those things you start looking at these quarterbacks in these specific systems. There definitely are cheat codes they found versus the 2 high system, because I don't think it's a coincidence that all those Shanahan offenses are ranked at the top of the rankings of quarterbacks versus, or most efficient QBs versus 2 high systems. So CJ Stroud's top of the list. So it seems like there's nothing to worry about, right? Because, and this is a guy that can push the ball down the field. Most completions for a first down on 3rd and 10 plus. Maybe that stat, him and Jared Goff had 14. There's nothing tougher, arguably, in the NFL to do than just straight drop back on 3rd and really long. 3rd and long is 3rd and 7, 3rd and really long, which is what you're talking about when you get in 3rd and 10 plus. And he was great pushing the ball down the field. Speaking of pushing the ball down the field, that may be part of his X-Man ability, is like CJ Stroud's vertical passing game. He had 5 games in 2023 with at least 25 pass attempts and a 10-yard average depth of target. That was the most in the league. In 3 of those games, he had at least 10 yards per attempt, also a league high. Only Dak Prescott also had 2 last season. Only Dak. I mean, no rookie since 2000 has done that more than once. So we're talking about vertical shots downfield. He was the only quarterback to throw more than half of his passes past the first down marker in 2023. You know about in a league, I just told you guys, the league is a quick game league. 60% of NFL passes are quick game. They're 3-step drops, and their routes within 5 to 7 yards line of scrimmage. Slants, quick out, hitch, smoke routes, quick RPOs, glance, you name it. Wide receiver, bubble screen, tunnel screen, just stuff that gets the ball out of the hands quick of the quarterback. And this dude, more than half of his passes passed the first down marker in 2023. And that, to me, and he's the only quarterback, by the way. Not only rookie, the only QB, period, that does that. No other quarterback in the league is doing that. Over the past 5 seasons, 10 quarterbacks have finished the season with at least 50% of their pass attempts traveling past the sticks. And it's a lot of different quarterbacks. It's, a lot of different guys on this list. Deshaun Watson's on this list, and Russell Wilson's on this list. Matthew Stafford's on this list. Jameis Winston's on this list. Tua's on this list. So if you go look at it, but if you go look at quarterbacks in the last, like I said, over the past 5 seasons, who have finished the season with at least 50% of their passes past the sticks, and look at the average depth of target. So look at average depth of target. If you look at the ones who have at least 9 yards average depth of target and an interception rate lower than 1%. Right? So you throwing that vertically downfield, doesn't matter if you're throwing a lot of picks. Jameis Winston, whose interception rate is damn near 5% on those deep passes down the field, or passes past the sticks.
But remember, he couldn't see.
Oh, it's right. It's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, he did. He did get the LASIK surgery. But CJ Stroud is the only quarterback. Actually, and even going back even further, he's the only quarterback since 2000 to have an ADOT of at least 9 with an interception rate lower than 1%. He's the only quarterback in the list. So you're talking about not only does he throw it vertically downfield, all right, and chunk it downfield past the sticks. Like I said, only 10 quarterbacks in the last 5 seasons even throw it past the sticks 50% of the time. And he was the only quarterback this season to throw more than half of his passes past the first down marker. So it doesn't happen a lot. But when he does it, it's a low risk, high reward scenario for him. He doesn't throw picks as a rookie. It's crazy. Houston had 5 different, and think about I told you about the offensive line. They had 5 different offensive line combinations, play at least 100 snaps. That was tied for the most in the league. Nobody had more injuries on the O-line than they have. And you look at what this dude's doing from weeks 1 through 6. They still have to trust him more. From week 1 to week 6, they threw the ball around 52% of the time on first and second downs. That was like 24th in the league. He's a rookie quarterback. He's like, I don't know what this kid's, I don't know what he's capable of. Let's take it slow. And then they started to pick it up after week 7. 56% of the time they were throwing it on early downs, and that was 12th in the league. They're going to throw it more on early downs this year. They're going to throw it more on early downs, and they're going to use more 11 personnel. They didn't use a lot of 11 personnel last year. They were using a lot of 21 personnel, 12 personnel. They used some 11, but they could ratchet it up more. I think they were maybe like 20th in the league in 11 personnel. They'd use more of that because they're going to have all their receivers on the field, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and they want to have Stephon Diggs out there. And they're going to throw it more on early downs, and they're going to throw it vertically down the field. So that's what his X-Man ability is, I think, more than any other quarterback. You just don't see quarterbacks stretch the field vertically. And is that going to be a challenge when they play more too high against him? But last year, he was the best, efficiency-wise, best quarterback in the league versus too high. But teams they're not going to let him keep stretching the field. And I wonder what's going to give. Is he going to basically still keep carving up these defenses and still continue to take these vertical shots downfield and throw past the sticks? Or are they going to put a top on the defense and back up their linebackers and just give him everything underneath and turn him into a different quarterback? It's going to be really interesting to watch.
Yeah. And you also hope to have a improved running game from last year. They were 4th worst in the league in yards per attempt from the rush. You hope to add some more with Joe Mixon. And then their training camp starts players report on Wednesday of this week, I believe. And so we'll be by Monday of next week, I believe we'll hear a report that Dameon Pierce is looking great, and he's looked better than his whole career. And he is probably going to be the greatest running back in NFL history because either he is going to be looking good or they're going to be trying to move him. So I imagine we'll get those reports. You normally get those reports from guys who struggled the last year. You normally get the reports during training camp of how good the guys look. So we'll get the Dameon Pierce report, I'm guessing, by Monday of next week.
Yeah. No, you're right. Actually, I've already seen some stuff that,
from the springs.
They want Dameon Pierce to be. He's a part of our plan for the future, that kind of stuff. When in reality, we know that's really not the case. But we've been on that bandwagon honestly since the start of the offseason that the Cowboys need to trade for Dameon Pierce. I don't know what they're waiting on. I think they get.
They need at least make that phone call. At least make the phone call.
Yeah, you've already done some business with the Texans. Nick Caserio is. I mean, come on, he's Cook Caserio. He's always trying to make a deal. So I don't know what the Cowboys are waiting on there. Maybe they know that's something they can always do, and that's they're going to pursue other interests. All right, good stuff there. We come back. We'll get into Rod's rant of the day, NFL-related rant. We'll talk about sub-packages a little bit. We'll also get into another trend in the NFL that I've started to notice. So all of that and more, we'll dive into it right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn, Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about Dr. Greg Eckert and his fantastic team. I owe them a huge debt of gratitude because when I had some major issues arise, they helped me out. I was in great hands. Actually, my wisdom teeth were growing in sideways after I went there for just a routine checkup and cleaning, and it was on the verge of being a disastrous situation, but they did not allow that to happen. Friends over there at Dr. Eckert's office, him and his all-star team, they went to work. They made sure that I was educated and comfortable with the entire process, had everything done, had everything scheduled, and was back at work within a couple of days. And ever since then, I have been the biggest fan of Dr. Eckert and his team. And anytime someone asks me if I know a good dentist, I say, no, I know a great dentist. I know the best dentist in Austin. That's Dr. Eckert and his great staff there. And you can go there for anything. Hopefully it's not as serious as, having all of your wisdom teeth removed like I had to do, but hopefully it's just something as simple as a routine checkup or a cleaning, general dentistry, teeth whitening, dentures or porcelain crowns, veneers, dental implants, full mouth reconstruction, even root canal therapy, whatever it takes to ensure you're getting the best quality dental care available. That's what Dr. Eckert and his team are all about. And right now, he actually can also give you a brand new smile in just one day, permanently secure to your dental implants. No time spent without teeth. You'll get temporary fixtures first since they complete your permanent smile. You'll smile again with confidence and eat freely without pain or discomfort. So this is a lifelike permanent solution. So if you've been told your teeth need to be replaced, don't freak out. Just call Dr. Eckert today to learn about this revolutionary alternative to dentures. It's a complimentary consultation, so you got nothing to lose but everything to gain. So give him a call today because a confident smile can truly change your life, and Dr. Eckert wants to change your life for the better. So give him a call, 512-345-3166. That's 512-345-3166, or visit dreckert.com, DRUECKERT.com. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into Rod's rant of the day. A couple of other things I noticed just looking into some NFL research. I was looking at teams and play action pass rates last season because I was trying to see what the Cowboys were. Looking at the reason, and the Cowboys in the top 5, by the way, in play action rate on pass plays. They're in the top 5. One thing that was surprising to me was to see a drop by the 49ers on play action plays on pass plays. I wrote about this is from Warren Sharp. He said it was something that he noticed too. He said it's been declining basically for a few years. You look at early downs, quarters 1 through 3. In 2020, 49ers play action pass rate 46%. In 2020 it was 46%. That was 5th best in the NFL in those categories, quarters 1 through 3, early downs. And in 2023 it's 31%, 24th. So he's actually, maybe because he likes Brock Purdy that much, and he's put Brock Purdy in some straight drop back situation. We talked about this with Dak, and the Cowboys are still using a lot of it, which I'm glad they are, because everything improves in play action. I mean, the numbers, passer rating on play action passes, 99.6 up from 85.7. EPA per play, 0.09 up from 0.06 on non-play action passes. It helps. All right. It in every regard. Yards per attempt with play action pass last year, yards per attempt 8.4, without 6.6. So it helps. But I was surprised looking at the 49ers, who really kind of ushered in this phase. They were, if you look at 24th in teams that use play action the most in 2023. Cowboys, I looked at them, they were near the top 10 as well. If you look at the teams that used the most play action the most in 2023, it says here. So it's interesting where, some teams are starting to, I think, get away from it, as maybe because maybe the RPOs are the reason. I think maybe I don't know if some different algorithms are counting RPOs as play action passes. I hope not, but I think that may be what is making up the difference. More RPOs and then fewer old school kind of play action passes as a result of that. So I want to see where the Cowboys go this year, because with Dak last year, like I said, he was so amazing in straight drop back situations. He was great. He was the best quarterback in the league by far, just dropping him back, no play action, which has been against the usual trend for Dak. Usually Dak was way better, and almost it was a crutch for him, a training wheel to use a lot of play action pass with him. And with the running game now being what it is, it doesn't necessarily have an effect on how effective the play action pass is if your running game is poor. But for Dak Prescott, I think this season you may see him just dropping back and slinging it. Because he's just that, and of course, teams know if you're going to throw it, then they can provide obviously more pressure packages. They can come after your quarterback. But nobody was better under pressure last year than Dak Prescott. 65 QBR, best in the NFL under pressure. Best QB under pressure. Best best quarterback when it came to straight drop back situations. And you don't have a running game this year, or at least I don't anticipate them having a great running game, even when they get a featured back. Which I hope they do. I don't anticipate them necessarily doing that, but I will say that maybe their play action rates drop a little bit next season. I think for CJ Stroud, his play action rates may go up. I think Dak's may drop, just because he was so great last year, and maybe they end up in more long situations because the running game is ineffective. So you're more second and long, more third and long, and that's when you just give it to your quarterback and put it in his hands and let him go to work. And I think that's what you're going to get from a lot more of that from Dak next season. So something else that I noticed, but I mean, there's no doubt Dak is the exception to the rule. He actually has a lower passer rating on play action passes this past season than on straight drive. He's basically a higher passer rating on straight drop back passes than on play action passes. Most quarterbacks are the opposite. And Dak for his career has been the opposite. This year, he just went through a transformation. We never seen anything like what Dak was last year. That was big Dak energy. We get that again. Then he's going to, like I said, be in the conversation for MVP again, potentially. And Cowboys are going to need him offensively to be that good, if not better. All right. We were talking about the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. I told you I'd get to this Caleb Williams research. So here's the Caleb Williams research about whether he is going to be, and I think the topic for the Big Fat Poll from my man Patrick is which of the number one overall picks in their respective sports will have the best career. Your obviously your options are listed there, and Caleb Williams, I imagine, is probably gonna win this poll. Yeah, he's running away with it. 67% are picking Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams actually is in a better position than probably 85% of your former number one overall picks in the NFL. He's the 28th drafted number one overall in the NFL in the Super Bowl era. That excludes the supplemental draft picks and stuff like that. So just in the modern Super Bowl era of the draft, 28th quarterback drafted number one overall. And if you look at the teams who are drafted number one and their records, I mean, the Panthers are coming off a 7-10 season and getting the number one overall pick because of the ineptitude of the Carolina Panthers, right? And the Bryce Young deal. So usually teams who are drafted number one overall, they're not a 7-win. They don't have 7 wins in the NFL. How rare is that? Of the 28 quarterbacks drafted number one overall in the Super Bowl era, 22 of them went to a team coming off a season where it won no more than 25% of its games. So think 4-12, basically, for a 16 game season. Tim Couch, David Carr, and the 2002 Texans were drafted to expansion teams, so they did not have a prior year. The Browns returned to the league in 1999, and the Texans became the 32nd team in 2002. That leaves just 3 quarterbacks besides Williams that joined a team that actually won at least 40% of its games. Jeff George, the number one overall quarterback, joined a 500 team in 1990 when the coach traded up after their 8-8 season. They actually, I want to say, had a worse record the next year. The 7-9 Rams, remember, traded up for the number one overall pick to get Jared Goff. And, once Sean McVay took over as head coach in 2017, Goff perked up and became a Super Bowl quarterback and looks like the quarterback we know today. But initially, people thought that Jared Goff was a bust. And then you have the last 2 years, Bryce Young, of course, and the Panthers in their situation. So it's the 2023 Panthers are the first team in modern NFL history to not take a single snap with a fourth quarter lead in any game. So that hadn't worked out yet. They hired a new coach. So the teams that drafted George, Goff, and Bryce Young all produced a worse record in their rookie year. So going 7-10 is, maybe they'll be worse, but this team is a better team, at least from a winning perspective, than most number one overall picks at quarterback go to. Their defense, the Bears ranked 20th in points allowed in 2023. So you go look at those other quarterbacks and basically the defenses that they played with. The 2023, if you go look at it, basically the 2003 Bengals finished 8-8 despite Carson Palmer being the only quarterback on that list of quarterbacks to sit for his entire rookie season, and John Kitna played. John Elway, 1983, the Broncos made the playoffs with a 9-7 record, though they were only 4-6 when Elway started, 5-1. He did not start. Andrew Luck dragged the Colts to an 11-5 record thanks to a 7-game win streak in his rookie season. So of those quarterbacks that I mentioned, all joined teams. Jeff George, Jared Goff, and Bryce Young, they joined teams that had defense that ranked around the top 20. Most of the other quarterbacks had defense that ranked toward the bottom. The Bears, their defense actually ranked pretty damn good. Their defense is ranked pretty good, like around the 20th. So it also compares to the other defenses. But the better defenses were the 2000. We talked about this. That Elway, that basically Elway had a top 10 scoring defense with the number 9 ranking in Denver. Drew Bledsoe had a better defense with the Patriots. Sam Bradford had a better defense with the Rams. Terry Bradshaw had a better defense with Pittsburgh. Eli Manning had a better defense with the Giants. Those are the only ones that ranked higher than the Chicago Bears' 20th ranked defense. So the Bears' defense actually is pretty damn good. If you look at skill talent, I mean, we're talking about overall the skill talent. DJ Moore, 27, had a career high 1,300 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns last year for the Bears. Keenan Allen, he's 32, but still had 108, 108 catch season, 1,200 yard receiving season last season for the Chargers. Romo Dunze, drafted as a top 3 receiver prospect in the draft. Tight end Cole Kmet had a career high 73 receptions, 719 yards in his 4th season with the Bears. So you got, 2 guys coming off career years. And also, take that back, DeAndre Swift rushed for a career high 1,049 yards last season in Philadelphia. But hopes he can work out with his new team, work out better, with his new team. So it's, a lot of guys coming off career years in their prime usually don't get that with a team that's drafting getting the number 1 pick overall. And they got 3 of those guys coming off of career years and guys who have made Pro Bowls at some point in their career or had 1,000 yards in some point career. Guys who are proven commodities, basically. So all the research says that Caleb Williams is getting as good of a chance to succeed, as good of a foundation to succeed as any number 1 overall pick in the Super Bowl era, if not better than every one of them. I'd say 85%. There are a couple of them that they had better situations, particularly his head coach, and I think his ownership and organizational culture may hurt him. But other than that, like I said, they put a lot of good pieces around him. All right, there you go. So that's the topic for the Big Fat Holiday. Go check it out. You can go to the Horn ATX and get that for yourself. All right, we come back. We'll get into what the facts, what the stats on the other side, right here on the Horn, featuring the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming right back. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time for What the Facts, What the Stats. This is a fact about the wide receiver for the Detroit Lions, Amon St. Brown. He revealed on the Wide Receiver Show on Netflix, where basically they follow around receivers throughout the 2023 season, that he tore his oblique completely off the bone after week 4 of the regular season. An MRI showed that after week 4, he only missed one game after the injury and recorded 115 catches for 1,458 yards in the next 15 games. You obviously include the playoffs too. That is crazy. I mean, how painful is it to tear your oblique off the bone?
Yeah. I mean, anything off the bone is going to be extremely painful, but anything in that area where it's like every breath seems like it would be affected, right?
I would think so, man. Like I said, I wonder what they shot him full of. Like, I don't know. Oof.
But yeah, I mean, that's just in the games. That's not talking about like quality of life outside.
Yeah. Like, that's every move you make. There's no way to avoid that area, moving that area when you're doing anything. That's like your core.
No, I mean, there are those, and it's weird because it's also, there's weird injuries that if it is one of those where it's off the bone, where there's points where they'll go, well, this is as bad as it's going to get. So you can't hurt it any worse. So if you're able to manage the pain, you don't need surgery right now. You don't need to fix this right now because it can't get worse.
Yeah, torn off the bone. Yeah, you're right. That's definitely.
So they're like, you can keep going and play the rest of your season. It's just going to hurt a lot, or we have to do surgery and then you have to miss time because you have to wait for it to heal correctly and everything else. I get why he stayed, but man, that's next level.
Wow. Yeah, he missed that 1 week, and then he had 25 receptions over the next 2 games after that, and didn't miss any more time, and went on to basically have an all-pro season. So I imagine he's going to be a lot more effective next season. Just to be a guy that can have those kind of numbers, torn oblique off the bone. So Amon St. Brown is a different level of toughness. Bronny James has got to be a different level of tough, but maybe mentally tough. This is a stat that was current until yesterday, and you watch a lot of Summer League, Patrick, so you probably know this. He is 6 of 26 from the field in Summer League, 0 of 12 from 3-point range so far in Summer League action.
Yeah, he's not looked great. Dalton Connect hasn't looked very good either, which was their first round pick.
Yeah, he says he's in a slump right now. He's a little bit of a slump right now.
No, and I mean, look, I will say, and especially the California Summer League, there's been a lot of bad shooting that a lot of these guys getting used to, especially the 3-point line is longer in pros. So they kind of have been in gyms for a long time, and then getting back to actual gameplay, it takes a little bit. But you also see guys that are supposed to be shooters. The Dalton Connect one worries me more because he's supposed to be a shooter.
Yeah.
And his missing. And Bronny James, again, like, we all get what it is. I don't know what anybody's expecting. We know what it is. So I get there's, I guess, some people that thought that he was going to step up and all of a sudden prove everybody wrong. Like, no, the reality is you're looking at him a couple years down the road to see if he can develop into a good role player. That's what you're looking for in Bronny James. And so as much as it is, I know there's a ton of people rooting for him to fail. He's going, what they should actually be looking at is that he should be a role player in a couple of years. It's can he develop on the roster? Does he have to be in the G League? Is he going to go to the G League? Those are the questions. Is he getting paid too much money? Of course he is. But I mean, he's also going to make that money back in merch and ticket sales. So at the end of the day, it's not, business wise, it's not the worst decision. He's going to take up the last roster spot on your bench. It's not the worst decision in the world. I'd be more worried that they really need to add somebody that can hit some threes consistently. And Dalton Connect was somebody they were hoping was going to be able to be that guy. He hasn't looked like it yet, but that doesn't always mean that it won't happen. But it doesn't necessarily look like it's going to happen year one necessarily. Maybe it'll come on, but I'd be more worried about that one than Bronny James. I get it's going to be a long year that there's just going to be so much hate thrown at him that it's just going to be a long year for him. It's going to be a long 4 years for him.
Yeah. No, I say he's got to be mentally tough. I mean, if he's mentally tough, he can handle it, like you said, and end up being, a good, decent role player in the league. How about this little factoid before we get to the break? Caitlin Clark is already one of the all-time leaders in career turnovers per game and turnovers in the single season. Obviously she's done a great job, but she's averaging 5.6 per game right now. She's also has a high record pace assist numbers as well, so she's killing it in assists too. She's averaging 7.8 assists per game, which is also leading the WNBA, and I believe is a rookie record as well. Currently a rookie record, on pace to be a rookie record. But yeah, so of the top 22 assists per game leaders, her assist to turnover ratio is one of the lowest, actually probably close to last, just because she's got a lot of turnovers so far this season. So she's a rookie.
Yeah. No, I mean, those happen. High usage rate. She's a rookie. It should even itself out after a year or two.
Yeah, she'll figure it out. Also dealing with, like you said, the target on your back. Brian knows about that. Caitlin Clark knows about it too. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into the SEC Media Days. We'll talk about questions that we would ask, or at least I want to hear asked at the SEC Media Days to the Texas attendees, including Coach Sark. We'll also dive into the roster updates. Texas up there at their roster, getting ready for SEC Media Days. So we'll get into that a little bit on the show, and we'll dive into some the MLB draft conversation. Longhorns getting some love in the MLB draft, and we'll talk about a trend, something a troubling trend, but a pattern developing that I think may balance the scales a little bit in the MLB draft. All of that and more when we come back. This is the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Smooth Soul Monday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host, the Ideallionaire, Patrick Davis, he wants to make sure that your transition from the fun-filled, stress-free weekend to the hectic and very stressful work week is a smooth transition, because sometimes it can be a really tough one. The work week can slap you in the face with meetings and traffic. My man Patrick wants you to be ready for it, and he wants to make that a smooth transition. That's the purpose of a Smooth Soul Monday. So we appreciate all of him and his effort here. We also appreciate him working hard on the topic for the Big Fat Poll today, which is an interesting conversation started today. Patrick, give folks the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day.
Big Fat Poll of the day today: which number one overall pick will have the best career? We had the MLB draft. Round one was yesterday, so we started to get into that. We've had the NHL draft recently, the NBA draft recently, and then, of course, the NFL draft. So we know in the four major American sports who our number one overall picks are. Caleb Williams going to the Bears. We had Zachary Reese-Shea to the Hawks, Macklin Celebrini to the San Jose Sharks, and Travis Bazzana to the Cleveland Guardians yesterday. Who will be your number one overall pick? 59% of the vote right now is Caleb Williams. People go with that. Travis Bazzana is second place, and then Macklin Celebrini and Zachary Reese-Shea. And I'm very curious. I would just wish people would post why they're voting for those people. I want to know if those are real votes or if they're anti-Caleb votes.
Yeah, maybe anti-Caleb votes, because I just don't know how much they know about those.
I'm curious, because if they have a good take,
options,
and they're like, this is the reason, I want to hear the good take on why Celebrini is going to be the best NHL player, why Bazzana is going to be the best MLB player, why they're really into Zachary Reese-Shea. I'd like to know that too.
They'd like to say his name. They just like to say his name. It's fun.
Zachary Reese-Shea.
Reese-Shea. It's one of those fun names to say. Once you get it down, you just want to say it all over again. Say it all the time.
It's easier.
No.
Alex Sarr is the easiest French name we've had, because Wembanyama had to learn, Zachary Reese-Shea had to learn. But Alex Sarr is the number 2 overall pick, went to Washington. He is Alex Sarr, much easier to say.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, once you can learn how to say one of those really tough names, then you say it all the time, like Antetokounmpo.
I know, but I don't say it all the time because I still mess it up all the time. Like, I know how to say it, but it's too many syllables.
It is. It's way, trust me, I'm with you. It's way too many. But once you feel confident, it's like I got it. Antetokounmpo. I said it. No, trust me, I'll still say it. I'll still mess it up every now and then. I'm talking too fast. But you're right. What's another one? Tua. Tua's got one of those.
Yeah.
I still mess Tua's up. Tua Tagovailoa. Is it Tagovailoa?
It's Tagovailoa. Yeah, I can't remember. Tua
Tagovailoa. Tagovailoa. I'm just saying, if I say it too much, I'll mess it up. I say it once and correctly, and if I say it like 4 or 5 times, I'm just gonna screw it up. But Tua's got one of those names too. It's like, once you learn how to say it correctly, then it's like, you know what? Let's just call him Tua. Tua works for everybody, no doubt about that. All right, we got to get to some Texas football conversation. SEC Media Days are today, starting up today, so we'll get into some SEC Media Days conversation. Getting ready for SEC Media Days, Texas updated their football roster, so we'll talk about some of the changes we've seen on the Texas football roster, and also we'll get to conversation about the MLB draft. You had the first 2 rounds of the MLB draft over the weekend. It'll continue. You have the All-Star game coming up as well this week, tomorrow as well. And then we'll get into because of the changing landscape of college sports, we've seen the major MLB draft actually be affected by the changing landscape of college sports. Some people think this could be just an outlier, could be an aberration, or maybe it is a sign of things to come. So we'll talk about that too coming up. But before we do any of that, let's get educated, updated, and informed on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Rangers took their series with the Astros 2-1 over the weekend and even up the Silver Boot series this season at 5 games apiece. Josh Smith homered twice on Sunday to secure a 4-2 win as the AL West race starts to tighten up as we head into All-Star Week. Going into the break, the Rangers now sit 4 games behind the Astros, while Houston is only a game behind the Mariners for the lead in the division. MLB All-Star Week festivities continue tonight in Arlington with the Home Run Derby contestants. This year include Gunnar Henderson, Alec Boehm, Bobby Witt Jr., Marcell Ozuna, Jose Ramirez, Adolis Garcia, Teoscar Hernandez, and 2-time Home Run Derby champion Pete Alonso. They are altering the rules this year to take the top 4 home run totals from the first round as opposed to the head-to-head format for the first round as in years past. Day 1 of the MLB draft took place yesterday with the Guardians taking Travis Bazzana as the number 1 overall pick. 2 Texas recruits were taken in the first round, with the Tigers selecting Bryce Rainier at number 11, and Westlake grad Theo Gillen is being picked number 28 by the Rays. The Longhorns also extended their streak of having players selected in every MLB draft since 1965, with Jared Thomas being picked 42nd overall by the Colorado Rockies. That is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Appreciate those as always. A little factoid about this year's MLB draft that I thought was interesting, worth discussing. So for the first time, actually, in MLB draft history, at least dating back to 1965, so the most modern age of the draft, the first 8 picks were all college products. You didn't get to a high school product until the 9th overall pick, Connor Griffin. That was the first high school picks for the first time. You had the first 8 picks of the draft were college products. Some people believe this is a sign of things to come, that this could be, now the pendulum could be swinging, where now more and more of the talented prospects are coming out of college instead of coming out of high school. I tend to think that this is cyclical, that this happens, every, couple of decades or so. I remember my man Kevin Dunn talking about this before, that, there was a time when all the top prospects were coming out of college, and then it switched to high school. And now maybe it's shifting back a little bit to college, but I think honestly, it'll stabilize, and you'll get to a point where it's pretty balanced, and you're getting a real healthy mix of high-level talent from high school and from college, and you'll get kind of the best of both worlds. But right now, not only the first 8 picks in this draft were coming out of college, but 13 of the top 15 picks in this year's draft were college players. And just 2 years ago, 4 of the top 5 players were prep players coming out of high school. Last year, it was 4 of the top 10. So like I said, I don't know if it's completely swinging in the other direction, but we do know, even looking at the All-Star game coming up, Tuesday's All-Star game, there will be 10 starters who came through the American Development Pipeline, 7 of them products of 4-year colleges. You could be now just kind of looking at some of the breakout young players in Major League Baseball who came from college, and then maybe seeing some this type of trend now being affected in the draft, or it's going to be a trickle up factor where, hey, a lot of the best players coming out of high school are deciding, I'd rather go to college because now I can get at least some of my worth and value via NIL. And now with the changing financial framework, I can go to college, and maybe there I can also be developed, cultivate my craft, but it'd be a better overall experience for them. So I think you're going to end up getting both. I do. I don't think it'll swing back and forth drastically. I think now with the NIL settling in as a new law of the land, new financial framework coming, it's only becoming more and more attractive to be a college baseball player.
Yeah, no,
More
and I mean,
investment.
it is. And I think there's a bit of it too of recency bias and copycat league, that if you look at what Paul Skeens is doing this year, he was the number 1 overall pick in last year's draft. He's the all-star starter.
That's crazy.
For the player for the Pirates, already pitching in the league, already having great stats. He is starting the All-Star game for them. Wyatt Langford was the 4th pick in the 2023 draft, playing meaningful minutes for the defending world champions in the Rangers. So if you say that's 2 players that were taken the top 5 last year and they're contributing already, that'll make you believe, well, we can draft some of these college guys and they're not going to have to sit in the minor league system for too long. We can get these guys up right away. They're showing that they're ready to go, that college is preparing them better than we have seen in years past. So we're ready to bring these guys up and have them play at a high level. And I think, when you see some of these high school players and prospects start coming out, and, in 2 years or 3 years, or whoever starts coming out next of high school prospects, then you may see it swing back a little bit more, that people see those guys say, wow, their potential of a high school player is so much higher. I'd rather take the high potential guy than a guy that I feel I know what he's going to be. And he could play in a year, but he may not be superstar level if you get another high school phenom that comes out and achieves at a high level. But yeah, I think it will be cyclical, but I definitely see why teams will be high on college players after you see a couple guys like Skeens and Langford succeeding at such a high level right now.
Yeah, no, it's it's never been a time in history which it's been more enjoyable, more profitable, and a better quality of life for student athletes around the country in every sport.
Yeah.
Especially the major sports. And if you are an elite player that's going to be drafted high in the MLB draft at one point, I mean, you could, depending on what college you go to, I mean, you could make probably close to $1 million or something. I mean, you could make real good money just to sit there for 2 years, compete at a really high level, and cultivate your craft. And I think more and more there is a push, an emphasis to put more resources in college baseball programs around the country, the top ones anyway. And I think that's only going to continue. So I think it's a good, healthy trend for the sport of baseball, period, because college baseball right now, I think is right now really popular. It's as popular as it's been in a long time because they have more talent available at the college level than they've had in a really long time. And it'll get to the majors eventually, but hey, maybe they don't have to, slum it through the minor leagues as much as they used to when these guys are coming out at the college level and somewhat more well-rounded of a skill set, and then having to go through the minor league system, which we've heard from several different players who play at the minor. I haven't heard one player that likes the minor league system. No, I'm serious.
No one talks about it in glowing terms. Yeah.
Nope. The grinders, the guys who are just jags and jabronis like I was, the high profiles guys like Harge, who was a second round pick, or the big. I've never heard anybody be like, man, it was really fun.
Best days of my life.
Yeah, they don't describe it in that way. They describe it as more of a grind. They had fun. Of course, you have fun when you're there. But they describe it more of, man, it was just a grind. It was just all the travel and then the travel arrangements and then the pay. And remember, they just changed the
pay structure,
CBA, the pay structure for the minor league. So they were getting, jobbed on that too. So it is still a rough life pretty much, but you can tell why young guys don't want to do that, why they'd rather go to a college campus.
Yeah. And
where they can, enjoy themselves a little bit more.
Well, and especially, a lot of these guys are going, especially SEC now has become the baseball powerhouse. We see we talk about that 2023 draft, the top 2 picks for LSU, Matt White, Langford's Florida. Those are all SEC, the top 4 picks, 3 SEC players. So, the SEC's got those guys. Would you rather go to school in one of those cities, or you play for Abilene for a little bit, or you play in you play in just smaller towns where it may not have the activities that a 18, 19-year-old star who is a star of his high school is now going there. And it's like, well, cool, but it's a small town. So I don't really have the activities that I'd want to go be a part of in these areas. And then you throw in the fact that in minor league baseball, it's not necessarily all about competing for wins. It's about player development, which is good for the players. But if you're really, really competitive, which these top tiered guys are, you may not want to. You may want to, stay back and play in an LSU where you think I'm playing for a national title, or I'm playing Florida, or come play at Texas and feel I'm competing for a title. We're going out there every single night to go win, and I'm not going to get pulled out of a game after 65 pitches because they didn't like that and they told me only throw 2 of my 5 pitches I can throw. And I want to go out there and have somebody trusting me to try and go win games. I think there's something to be said for that when now you're getting paid to do it. Because money is a giant factor beforehand. I could either be poor trying to win or have money trying to work on my game. I'll take the money. Now I can have money either way. I'll go. I want to go win.
Yeah, that's a great point. I never really thought about that because, the developmental league is just about development. I mean, they don't really give a damn about winning. They care about putting butts in seats and selling tickets, and they care about development. Those are two priorities they prioritize over, oh, let's go win a championship in the minor leagues.
I mean, that the reality is, if you're a manager in the minor leagues and you win 3 titles but don't produce any MLB talent, you probably are not going to move up to the MLB. But if you produce a ton of MLB talent, then they want to bring you up and go, well, how you're making these guys, you're making good players great. So let's pull you up.
You got to win a damn thing. Yeah, it's a great point, man. I totally agree. And if I honestly, I think it depends. It depends on my situation, but I would, if I was a prospect coming out of baseball, I would have to consider some of the best elite colleges. If you're going to be a first round pick and potentially go, I mean, I can see some of these guys saying, hey, I'll go to college for just a couple of years. Just a couple of years, when it used to be just kind of a one and done situation all the time, or just not even considering it at all. All right, so that's some MLB draft conversation. We'll talk about it more tomorrow, of course, because MLB draft continues. But let's talk about the Texas roster and the Texas roster updates, because Texas getting ready for SEC Media Days starting up today. So they'll be happening the early part of this week, I believe, Monday through Thursday. The SEC Media Days will happen, and we'll get you, of course, lots of sound from SEC Media Days. They're just starting up this morning. But the Longhorns have adjusted or updated their roster, getting ready for SEC Media Days. And there are some significant changes, transformations, if you will, by some of the players. The biggest, no doubt, being Sadir Mitchell. No pun intended, literally probably being the biggest, but the biggest transformation. So reportedly, at least based on this roster update, he lost 22 pounds. They got him down to 350 from 372 during the spring. If that is the case, that is exceptional. And I thought he actually didn't look like he was, too bogged down and slow-footed with the 370. I thought he carried it pretty well, but definitely needs to be a little bit lighter than that. He's no Tavondre Sweat, who could still be light and agile, carrying upwards of 370 something pounds. But Sadir Mitchell getting down to 350 shows his commitment, shows that the coaches have not necessarily given up on him. That was something people were worried about, like whether the coaches had moved on. They brought in 3 D tackles via the transfer portal. Not the case. Sadir Mitchell still a big part of the plans. I think they're hoping that this is the off season that the light goes off for Sadir Mitchell. They need him. I mean, this is a guy that Texas and Georgia wanted at the end of the day. Kirby Smart went down to the wire with Texas because he wanted Sadir Mitchell. So there shouldn't be any doubt about Sadir Mitchell's upside and potential. Yeah. We just need Sadir Mitchell to be committed to it. It seems like a 22-pound loss that's pretty committed.
And it's also a 22-pound loss when you're not necessarily being hounded by coaches. You're not being, you're in the summer period. That it's a more self-driven way, which is what you want to see for somebody that you want to take that next step forward, is that they're taking the responsibility upon themselves. We saw Sark talk about it in his last presser before summer, where he's like, this is the part that I can't stand the most, because I can't, it's like, this is where I have to trust the players and let them go away and do their thing. So to see him come back from that, where we've seen, spring, you get the point where some guys came back heavier than they need to be, but you could see over summer, some guys come back and be a little bit heavier and be a little bit out of shape. But that was not the case. It's good for the culture of the program, and it's good for him.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Really good for him. And if it's good for him, then it's good for Texas, because they definitely need Sadir Mitchell to take a leap this year. In addition to Sadir Mitchell, some other big humans on this roster that saw some changes, some big-time losses. Cam Williams with a 34-pound loss for Cam Williams. That is huge for him. I mean, Cam Williams already, he's a humongous, huge human being, and I think he was already carrying that weight pretty well. But this means that coaches want to see at 335. They want to see Cam Williams 6'5", 335. They want to see him a little bit more nimble on his feet. So I like that. DJ Campbell with a 20-pound loss. He's at 330 now instead of 350, 6'3", 330 for him. I think they want these big guys to be a little bit more agile. So bringing in the big humans with the big upside and transforming their bodies, trying to it seems like the theme on the O-line and the D-lines maybe is to slim these guys down a little bit heading into the SEC. And I like that. Not everybody's slimming down. Colin Simmons adding weight. He's at 245 now. Looking at the roster, that's about a 10 to 12 pound gain for Colin Simmons. Zena Umeozulu, another one of those names. Once you say it once, you get it right. Once you want to say it over and over again. Umeozulu, he gained 25 pounds. Is up to 260 now from what was listed at 235. It's a pretty significant increase for him. I saw the young buck Brandon Baker went from under 300 now to 315, so he's gained probably close to 20 pounds as there as well. And looking at some of the other kind of transformations, looking at the now who are the bigger D tackles and O linemen are. Your biggest O lineman now is Connor Stroh, looks like it, 6'7", 350. Andre Kojo is 6'6", 340. Cam Williams, pointed him out, 6'5", 335. Neto Umeozulu, the 6'4", 330. So is DJ Campbell, but he's 6'3", 330. So still got some big humans, but not as big as they used to be. And your D lineman, biggest being still Sadir Mitchell, but 20 pounds lighter at 350, 6'6", 350. Bill Norton, the transfer portal acquisition, 335. He's 6'6", 335. Alfred Collins, 6'5", 320. Jermaine Lole, 6'3", 315, another transfer portal acquisition. And then Alex January, the young buck coming in, the freshman, 6'5", 315 listed now. I think when he came in, he was a little under 300 pounds, so already significant gains for him. So all these guys, it looks like whether they're losing weight or whether they're gaining it, we've seen some significant changes for these guys in their physiques. So to me, I know some people said that they've seen some of the DBs. I've seen that the DBs that gained some weight. Yeah, I've seen some of the young DBs that Xavier Filsaime, he's up 10 pounds. Wardell Mack is up about 15 pounds. Yeah, so I think the young DBs are packing on some armor. They're getting those guys. I think they're probably just, especially those young guys, they're going from their teenage bodies to their grown man bodies. And I think you're probably just getting more definition. Adding on some weight. You want to be careful with the DBs. You want to make sure you're adding weight, but also keeping the speed. And I know that's a point of emphasis for them because I've talked to data scientists over there on the 40 acres, and like that's their number one goal for skill position guys. Not so much for the big linemen, for skill position guys, keeping the straight line speed, but also gaining the proper amount of muscle mass. So yeah, some of the young DBs seem to gain some weight. Also, Jaden Blue is up. I think Jaden Blue is up to like 212 or somewhere around there. That's really good for Jaden Blue because they want to see Jaden Blue on more of those perimeter runs. So we've talked about that Jaden Blue, some of those interior runs, he's used to perimeter runs. They want to see him more of those interior runs, not get tackled by arm tackles, not get brought down by simple arm tackles, be able to break those. So adding some power to his game. And I think that's adding a little bit more bulk, but also with him, you want to keep the speed element because that's his unique trait, that unique and elite trait that sets him apart. All right. So that's some of the updates on the roster that we saw. Also, I want to get to SEC Media Days and some of the questions I hope that the attendees for Texas are asked. So we'll talk about that on the other side. Also, there are some SEC trends that I wanted to get into a little bit. If we have time, we'll throw that in there. If not, that's a bit evergreen. We can throw it in there down the line a little bit later on this week. We'll have a ton of SEC Media Days conversation. There'll probably be some quotes leaking out from SEC Media Days probably toward the end of the show. But we come back, we'll talk about questions that I hope Sark and the Texas attendees are asked at SEC Media Days. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is time to go behind the burnt orange curtain, talk some Texas football. My man CB at Chris GB002000. Appreciate CB always tuning in. He sent us the wide receiver, basically speed scores from the video game. Remember, Josh Pate said that there were 6 wide receivers that had a speed score of 92 or higher. I count here 7 with actually, yeah. I count 8. He said it was just 7. Maybe he didn't count the youngsters. Okay. Isaiah Bond, 98 speed. Matthew Golden, 93 speed. Silas Bowden, 94 speed. Ajante Cook, 92 speed. Ryan Wingo, 96 speed. Ryan Niblett, 96 speed. Dubose, 95 speed. Parker Livingstone, 94 speed. Yeah, 8 wide receivers with 92 speed or higher. That's crazy. That's got to be the most on the game. There's no way.
Sark has a type.
Sark's got a type. You better be able to run around. If you can't run, then Sark don't want you around here.
You think Sark called EA Sports after Pate had it? And he was like, "You only got that many? I can tell you, they're all running 20 plus miles per hour in practice. We know that."
I think now looking at Sark, so who held the 40-yard dash time record before Xavier Worthy? John Ross, right?
Yeah.
I believe Sark coached him.
Yeah. No, he's got it.
So Sark has coached the 2 receivers who have also end up being the record-breaking record holders of the 40-yard dash time at the combine. That's no coincidence. And I think it's just nationally known what Sark's type is. You just look at the kind of, I always say, if you look at all of my women that I've dated all through my life, have them lined up all next to each other, they probably wouldn't get along. So bad idea to line them up next to each other. But if you line them up next to each other and you can see them all, you'd probably notice a trend. You'd be like, hey, 65% of these are big booty brunettes. What's going on here, Robbie? Yeah, I mean, you would notice a trend. Same thing with Sark. I mean, it's obvious. He likes speed. It's period. I mean, so if that wide receiver don't have a lot of speed, honestly, I don't see Sark being interested. There are some recruits that Sark is he's allegedly interested in, that he may miss out on. And sometimes I think it's just because, man, he finds out they're not fast enough. No, this guy's not fast. I don't like his track times. I want legit world-class speed on his roster. And I don't know if there's a team or program in the country or a team on the game, definitely, that has more speed than Texas. All right, let's get to some SEC Media Days conversation as things will be starting off. The festivities will be starting off at SEC Media Days, I think about 9 a.m. down there in Dallas. But, Sark and, the 3 attendees for Texas, Quinn, Kelvin Banks in that group, as well as Jadae Barron, they're going to be asked a lot of questions. They'll be on the platform and they'll break down and to do radio interviews, break down and do the the newspaper and print sessions. So they're gonna ask a lot of stuff. It is actually hard to kind of gather up all the different quotes, but I'll do my best. And because I'm looking for certain things, right? There's certain questions I'm hoping that they're asked about. For Sark, I'm hoping that he's asked about 2 things. And I know he will be, because I actually know some guys going up there to ask Sark, and I know their list of questions. One of the things I want to hear him answer, or want to see him respond to, is a question about what did you do in your deep dive analysis of red zone offense this past offseason? Like how expansive was the research? How much time did you spend on it? What did you come up with? Did you find any solutions? Did you find any pattern as to why Texas was so inept and inefficient in the red zone? And it wasn't every game, but largely we know, the trend, right? 120th in touchdown percentage in the red zone. Only half of your red zone trips resulted in a touchdown. You were 90th in red zone offense. Start to rely a lot more on Bert Auburn, thank God, so you can at least get those points. But I don't think Sark ever really figured out what the issue was. And that was one of the only problematic things on offense last season. You didn't have many problematic areas last year on offense. You were deep. Sark is a brilliant offensive mind, but that one is concerning because you could make the argument that's the reason you lost the 2 games you lost last season. And in addition to that, the trend. And now someone should ask me, like, why has the touchdown percentage in the red zone gotten progressively worse every year, although the team and the personnel and you as a coach have all gotten better? You're a better coach. Your personnel is way better. The culture is way better. Guys are more familiar with the offense. And yet, as everything is improved, the red zone offense has gotten worse. Touchdown percentage in the red zone. Actually, red zone offense and touchdown percentage in the red zone. You went from being third in touchdown percentage in the red zone to 65th to 120th in 3 years. You were better in the red zone when Casey Thompson was your quarterback and Hudson Carr was your quarterback and Joshua Moore and freshman Xavier Worthy were your receivers. And when you didn't even have enough scholarship offensive linemen to execute a spring game, you were better in the red zone then. When you were brand new to the conference. You know what I mean? So I would like him to answer. Like, so why the trend? Why the negative trend? And have you figured out a solution in the offseason? Also, I would like somebody to ask him, where did he visit in the offseason? He always goes to visit an NFL team, or not every offseason, but a lot of offseasons. He goes to visit an NFL team. He wants to keep up with the latest trends, go talk ball with these guys, siphon ideas, pick their brain. And I believe he's admitted he's been to visit the Rams, Sean McVay, to visit, I believe, Shano with San Fran. He likes to stay within the McShanahan coaching tree. And if that is the case, I would like him to consider going to visit some other branches on that McShanahan coaching tree who are also really good at red zone offense to help him solve his problem. Red zone offense. When I went back and looked at the best offenses and touchdown percentage in the red zone in the NFL, 2023, San Fran's number 1, Miami's number 3, excuse me. San Fran number 1, Miami number 3 on this list, Rams number 8 on this list. Go to 2022. Not as well represented. 2022, Dallas and Kansas City at the top of the list. 2021, you had San Fran at number 4 and touchdown percentage in the red zone. Their offense, so still one of those McShanahan offenses at the top. In 2020, it was Green Bay, Matt LaFleur, also in that McShanahan coaching tree family. They were at number 1. San Fran was at number 7 on this list at the time. So those offenses, what are you talking about? San Fran, Miami, Green Bay, all the ones that are in that family of offenses, they also have a lot of commonalities in why they work in the red zone. And I'll say one of them is they use traditionally probably more 2-back sets than a lot of teams use. We know San Fran does, Miami does too. So does Green Bay. Matt LaFleur likes that. Just throwing it out there. Things you'll learn when studying those kind of offenses. So I hope somebody asks them, hey, have you been visiting offenses? And what did you learn? And was there any red zone related, education for you in regards to studying those offenses and gaining inspiration? All right. Quinn Ewers. I got a couple of things I'd ask Quinn Ewers. Number one, about the chemistry with the wide receivers. You got 4 new wide receivers that you got to get used to that you haven't really had any experience with prior to this offseason. Bringing in Silas Bowden, Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond, Ryan Wingo as a freshman. Only really Jonte Cook and Denver Moore guys that he would have had experience throwing to out of the guys we expect to crack the circle of trust of wide receivers. So first of all, who's he got the best chemistry with? And he's not going to probably answer it, but I don't want to know who's got the best chemistry with as a wide receiver. And how often did they have throwing sessions? How often were they working on the continuity, the timing, the rhythm, chemistry between he and those brand new wide receivers? Because that's one of the only things that could derail the offense, or at least maybe take it a long time to get into its groove or find its identity. Could just be Quinn being off. He was off in the spring game with the wide receivers. Nobody cares. It's a spring game. Who gives a damn? But he was still off with them. They still didn't have
at least
great
Bond.
chemistry. Yeah.
At least Bond.
At least Bond. Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, he's supposed to be. They only threw it to Bond. They didn't.
I know
really
that's
throw
what I'm saying.
it to
He hit some of the
he
other
was-
guys a little bit better, but Bond with him, it was noticeable. But again, it's spring. It's not huge. But yeah.
It was like not a big deal. I'm not trying to, but I'm just pointing out that is. I mean, that was in the spring game, the 2 drives that he played. We didn't see great chemistry between them, and it was expected. How much did that improve, and what did you do to improve on that kind of stuff? I would also ask him. This is something based on film study of the last season. The batted passes is something I would ask him about, and see if it's something that stood out to him. I kind of want to gauge his reaction. I'd ask him, "Are you concerned about the batted passes?" and see if he instantly rolls into an answer, or if he's almost like, what is that an issue?
Yeah.
I want to see his response to, because last year in 12 games, regular season games, he had 5 batted passes, just 5 of them. And then when the postseason started, Big 12 title game and the college football playoff, he equaled the total of batted passes he had in 2 games for the entire season. He had 2 versus Oklahoma State. He had 3 versus Washington, and that's 5 in the postseason. He only had 5 the entire regular season. So it seems like maybe Mike Gundy started to figure something out, and then Washington, they doubled down on it, and they found something too. And I was talking to Coach Shipley about this, and he was talking about, well, based on all the film angles that you have when you're watching film as a coach, you got the bird's eye view, the coach's view, but you also have the field level view, which is behind the quarterback. All right, looking at the offensive line behind the QB, and you have another field level view that is behind the defense, looking at the front 7 pretty much. And based on those views, you can see passing lanes. And if you're really savvy, and probably with AI, you don't even need to be really savvy these days, you probably can just put it into a freaking algorithm. You can find out the percentage of like what plays they use and how often in running that play, that concept, that RPO, that quick game throw, how often they're throwing through specific passing lanes. You say, well, Quinn's throwing, when in RPO, he's going to be throwing through this passing lane 65% of the time. That's your passing lane, D tackle or DN. So if you don't get there and you see him setting up, keep your eyes up, and you see him pulling the football out of that RPO mesh point, he's getting ready to throw it, and there's a 65% likelihood he's throwing right through your window, right through your passing lane, right through your gap. Get your eyes up and get your hands up. Stop rushing, get your hands up right there, because it's going to be a low trajectory throw, because Quinn throws from a lot of funky arm angles because he's got that kind of talent. It's not always over the top throwing motion. Sometimes it's from a funky, arm motion where he's off platform, which is great for RPOs, but can be a low trajectory throw. And if it is on that slant, on that out, on that glance route, on that hitch route, you get your hand on it. Get him into a second long, get him into a third long, whatever it may be. Washington did a brilliant job on some drives like that. And Washington's not a line of scrimmage program. I mean, less than 50% of their roster are blue chips. The Big 12 is not a line of scrimmage league. So when you go to the SEC, which is a line of scrimmage league, they run a lot of games and twists and some best D linemen in the country. Theoretically, they should be able to execute a tactic like that better than Big 12 teams. And so will SEC defensive coordinators decide, you know what? We got to copy that. We know we got to find out what passing lanes he's throwing in as the majority of the time and tell those guys and inform those guys part of the game plan. Get your eyes up and get your hands up. Because quick game, you're not going to get there anyway. It's 3-step drop. The ball's out quick. 60% of passing game is quick game. Ball's out quick. You're not going to get there. So why waste your time? Why waste your energy? Why waste that effort? Work smarter, not harder. So I think that's going to happen. So that's what I would ask him about. Jahdae Barron, I would ask Jahdae, have y'all worked on defending bunch routes? What's the plan to defend bunch concepts? Because for a couple of years, you guys have had trouble defending closely clustered groups of receivers. Is there a plan? What's y'all's initial adjustment to bunch formation? Walk me through it. And that's what I want to know. Targets to bunch in 2023, 80% completion percentage, 11 yards per attempt, 27% explosive play rate, on money downs to Power 5 starting quarterbacks. You're talking about you're talking about over a 50% conversion rate. Targets to bunch versus in 2022. It was versus Bama. They were at 81% completion percentage. Iowa State was at 86% completion percentage targeting bunch formations. It's become an issue. It's an issue that is, I think, persisted over 2 years now, 2022 and 2023. What's the plan? Like, how do you guys approach it? And is it something that you guys have worked on, Nelson? I'd ask him that. I'd ask him, does he plan to play any other position other than nickel this season? Because Sark talks a lot about versatility, moving guys around. They plan to move you around potentially. Kelvin Banks. I'd ask Kelvin Banks. I'd ask him, if I ask Kelvin Banks, are we going to see more of the 6-0 line package? Yeah. I'd say, are we going to see more of the 6-0 line package? Because it's something that I've been intrigued about. I've been tracking. They call it a Big 11, Big 12. I've heard Kyle Flood go on the record and say he wants to use it 30 to 40% of the time. He's an O-line guy, so it kind of makes sense. But yeah, I'd want to know, are you going to use it more? It was pretty effective for him last year, especially in straight drop back situations for Quinn. More effective straight drop back than it was last year. Less effective in the run game than it was last year, but more effective in yards per attempt. Yards per attempt improved over 5 yards per attempt. Improvement from last year to this year in the 6-0 line package. You're an O-lineman. You're the head of that group. Are they going to use that more? I'd like to know. Inquiring minds want to know. All right, that's the questions I would ask the guys at SEC Media Days. I'm sure that a few of those, more than a few, will be asked, and we'll get those answers for you coming up later on this week. All right, we come back. We'll get into Off the Record on the other side. Jerry Rice is he is very, very passionate about his 49ers. We'll come back and tell you why that is the case. We'll also get into some other stories from Off the Record, all of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on home. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into a little off the record. So I saw this video and it made the rounds. You might have seen it too, of Jerry Rice going off at a golfing event. He was this video was published by TMZ, so I saw it on TMZ. And he was at the American Century Championship, and a guy asked him a question, and he went off on this dude. And he basically told the guy, "You're an effing a-hole, and I will F you up. And if you want some, come get some." That I actually heard it. That was a part of his response to the question. And when he was asked by TMZ, hey, why, what's going on with that? And he said, "I'm going to defend my 49ers. This is my history." The question by the reporter that got him so irate was simply, "Do the Chiefs have a good enough receiving core to win again?" And Jerry Rice's response was, "You're a effing a-hole. You know that? I will F you up. And if you want some, come get some." And then they asked him, "Dude, what happened?" He was like, "Hey, man, I'm defending my 49ers." Like, whoa. I mean, Jerry, I'm sure they appreciate the loyalty, but that is wild. Starcade Media posted a comment on social media saying, "We meant absolutely no disrespect to Jerry or the 49ers when asking this question, as we have a profound respect for the great players that have played this game, especially the greatest receiver of all time. The confrontation that followed was very unfortunate, but we were not trying to elicit a negative reaction, and there were no smirks, as Mr. Rice suggested. We simply wanted the input of the greatest receiver in league's history about the Chiefs receiving core, and if it had improved enough to continue winning at a high level at historically rough season the group had last year." Oh man, Jerry Rice is wild.
There has to be more context to that.
No, dude, I swear.
No, I'm saying in the moment. I'm saying, but like pre-video or maybe on the golf course earlier, someone was razzing him about it, and he was just getting worked up and worked. Like there has to be something that he wasn't like, "Man, it is a beautiful day playing golf. Things are just, hey, sir, nice to meet you. Things are, hey, no problem. Let's do this interview. I'll kill you." I don't think that, like, I have to imagine there's some other context in his world that something else had happened that made him that angry.
They talked to him and he didn't say anything. Jerry said, "I'm defending my 49ers. They talked to Jerry afterwards. "Jerry, what's going on? You want to clarify?" "I'm defending my 49ers. That's my history." That's what he said. So
there's got to be something.
It might have been something early on, but Jerry still didn't acknowledge it later on when they talked to him. Jerry was like, "Nah, man, don't be asking me about them damn Chiefs." That's but I will admit, hey, when you think about Shannon's losses, I said this, guys, it's especially agonizing. They've been up double digits on these dudes. Once in the fourth quarter. Once last year, they were up double digits in the last Super Bowl. You're supposed to win a Super Bowl when you're up double digits. You are. It's playoff games too. I gave you guys the stats on quarterbacks and their record in playoff games when they're down double digits. You aren't supposed to be able to come back to win. It's happened twice. So they are, I'm telling you, man, them Niners, they're aggravated.
I'm telling you, this must have been like the 20th time he got asked it within a period of time. And that was the one that set him off. Like, like when someone asks you for a favor and it's like, it's not the favor they asked you for, but like 5 other people did before them. And so that 5th person gets it.
I get it.
It has to, that has to be what it is. It has to be something. Because that's 0 to 100.
Real quick. And I will see the video. I watched the video. It's like a 2-minute video. And the guy literally is stupefied. He's like, "I don't know what I did. I just asked the GOAT about receivers." And he is just like, "I will F you up right now." And Jerry was irate. I say, wow. There you go. So I'm just, my point is, I just think the 49er, he's close to the organization. Like he's really close to the organization. I mean, he's there at games all the time, like damn near every home game. Jerry Rice is there. When I went to visit Shano, we walked by Jerry Rice. Like he was there. Like I didn't go into, he was there in the suite, just hanging out in the suite. You can go walk by and say, "Oh, that's Jerry Rice." Everybody's like, "Oh no, that's kind of where Jerry hangs out." Jerry can go anywhere in anybody's suite.
Yeah.
Because it's Jerry freaking Rice.
Jerry
He just
Rice.
hangs out. I mean, he ain't got no suite. He goes up there to the suites, and every suite will let Jerry Rice walk in.
He's
And,
Jerry Rice.
and the 49ers are like, hell yeah, please go Jerry Rice and just bum rush people's suites because they would love it and we would love it too. It's like, so
Just
one of your
do not ask him about the Chiefs.
don't ask him about the Chiefs. Do not. He actually used to be a wedding crasher too.
Yeah, I've heard
That was
yeah.
actually a thing that Jerry Rice used to do. No joke. He would go crash weddings on the West Coast because he's Jerry freaking Rice. And everybody knows him. So when Jerry Rice is in your wedding hanging out, who's gonna kick out Jerry Rice and be like, "Sir, did you RSVP?" No, it's Jerry freaking Rice. And once any dude in there finds out it's Jerry Rice, they go, "Oh hell no, he's staying. Jerry Rice is at our wedding, and we love him." So yeah, if you're a celebrity, you should be crashing weddings. Like, I know you don't have no reason to do it, but if you're bored, just go crash a wedding. Like, why not?
No,
you're a celebrity, you get in because it's a great place to meet chicks. And I think he was like divorced at the time.
No, so. You don't want to meet chicks at a wedding because chicks at weddings want to get married. That's awful.
Well, they do, but then they'll do things because they'll be in a romantic
I'm aware of the thought of it.
They'll be in a romantic state of mind though. So half the work that I got to get her in the mood for, I ain't got to get her in the mood. She's in the mood. She's at a wedding. She's in the mood for love. Like, that's the best thing about a wedding. Like, I ain't got to work to get you in the mood for love. You're in the mood for love. Everything else is set though. All I got to do is come up there and be halfway decent. And then you're going to be like, damn, he's kind of cute because it's a wedding. That's why if you're a single man, weddings are it for you, bro. You got to go hook up at a wedding because all the ladies are in that mood. All of them in the mood. They're in the mood. They may not like you, but they're in the mood. Trust me on that. That's the beauty of it. All right, there you go. That's dating advice from Rod B2. All right, we come back. One more hour left in the show. NFL news, notes, and nuggets. Got a lot of NFL topics we're going to dive into. We'll get back to the topic for the big fat poll of the day. We'll also have the running back rankings. We'll tell you, unfortunately, where the Cowboys are ranked in the latest running back rankings by Warren Sharp. Also, Mina Kimes had a very interesting breakdown about what CJ Stroud can expect this upcoming season, something that I've warned you guys about too. So we'll talk about CJ Stroud and how exceptional he was last season. And we'll also get into a Rod's rant of the day. We'll dive into that as well. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Austin is a great city, yes, even with the traffic. The reason for the traffic is people keep moving here because they know it's such a great city. And as the city continues to grow and thrive, so do our friends over at Ironworkers Local Union 482. Many of the iconic landmarks that we love in this city were actually built and constructed by the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482, like the Pennybacker Bridge and DKR Stadium. Right now, the folks over at Ironworkers Local 482 are hiring over 3,000 people for another big project happening right here in Central Texas. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So right now, it's a perfect time for you to become a member of Ironworkers Local 482. If you're thinking about an exciting employment opportunity or a refreshing career change, or you're thinking about a new challenge, or you want to feel valued by your employer, you can become a valued member of this prestigious organization, Ironworkers Local 482. And right now, it's a perfect time to do it. So go online today and apply at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Smooth So Monday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host, the Idealionaire Patrick Davis, plays jams that are intended to make the transition from the stress-free, fun-filled weekend to the hectic, very stressful work week. He wants to make that a smooth transition for you. That's the purpose of a Smooth So Monday. So we appreciate my man Patrick hooking us up there. Also, we appreciate Patrick hooking up the topic for the big fat poll of the day that's already posted up at the X account of the Horn ATX. Go check it out for yourself. Patrick, what is the topic for the big fat poll of the day?
Big fat poll of the day. After the MLB draft started last night, we have all of our number one overall draft picks. So we're asking you, which number one overall draft pick will have the best career? Caleb Williams getting drafted by the Bears, Zachary Reese-Shea with the Atlanta Hawks, Macklin Celebrini with the San Jose Sharks, or Travis Bazzana with the Cleveland Guardians. And right now, Caleb Williams at 58% winning the vote on the poll. Travis Bazzana is in second place.
All right. Yeah. And actually, I got some info about that question too that we'll dive into a little bit later on in this hour. We also have your Rangers report. So we'll have that coming up a little bit later on too. So we'll cram the Rangers report in. So we got a lot of stuff that we'll do here in this hour. So first, let's get updated, educated, and informed on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the MLB, the Rangers took their series with the Astros 2-1 over the weekend and even up the Silver Boot Series this season at 5 games apiece. Josh Smith homered twice on Sunday to secure a 4-2 win as the AL West race starts to tighten up as we head into All-Star Week. Going into the break, the Rangers now sit 4 games behind the Astros, while Houston is only a game behind the Mariners for the lead in the division. MLB All-Star Week festivities continue tonight in Arlington with the Home Run Derby. Contestants this year include Gunnar Henderson, Alec Boehm, Bobby Witt Jr., Marcelo Zuna, Jose Ramirez, Adolis Garcia, Teoscar Hernandez, and two-time Home Run Derby champion Pete Alonso. They're altering the rules this year to take the top 4 home run totals from the first round as opposed to the head-to-head format from the first round as in years past. Day 1 of the MLB draft took place yesterday with the Guardians taking Travis Bazzana as the number 1 overall pick. 2 Texas recruits were taken in the first round, with the Tigers selecting Bryce Ranier at number 11 and Westlake grad Theo Gillen being picked 28 by the Rays. The Longhorns also extended their streak of having a player selected in every MLB draft since 1965, with Jared Thomas being picked 42nd overall by the Colorado Rockies. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Appreciate those. All right. I got a couple of things I want to get to here. We got Rod's rant that'll come up a little bit later on. If we don't have time for it, we'll push to the next segment. Also, that's the case for the Rangers report if we go a little long here. A couple of topics. One Cowboys-related topic, one Texans-related topic. We're trying to balance out things this year and not just talk mostly Cowboys and not show the Texans some love or vice versa. So I want to talk Cowboys first. I was looking at Warren Sharp's positional rankings. He's ranking every position in the NFL. I didn't want to go through all the different positions, but I looked at the running back position, something we've talked about, and I've said I bet the Cowboys have the worst running back room in the NFL. I've been saying that all offseason. I said this. It's hard to think of a running back room that is less talented, that has fewer play-breaking threats in it, and Warren Sharp agrees. He's got the Cowboys as a 32nd ranked running back room in the NFL, dead last. Is the lowest spot on the Dallas roster is running back, which finished dead last in our rankings, a drop of 15 spots from a year ago. Tony Pollard has moved on to the Titans after posting a career low yards per carry in 2023. And Ezekiel Elliott has returned after a 1-year stint in New England. The Giants are ranked 31st, and they got the Chargers and the Las Vegas Raiders. They are tied at 28th here. But best running back rooms, 49ers, Detroit Lions are second. Miami Dolphins are third. Atlanta and Bijan are fourth. and Philadelphia Eagles are 5th on these rankings. But no surprise to me, the Cowboys are last. I expect every running back ranking in the NFL to put them last, and I think there's some distance in between the Cowboys and even the next team was the New York Giants here. I think there will be a little, and they lost Saquon Barkley, so they lost a big piece.
Yeah, they picked up
Singletary.
Yeah, they picked up Singletary, but the rest of they don't really have a second. And Singletary was okay last year at the end of the season for the Texans. So I get that one. And you can look at a lot of these teams. If you look at the Giants lost Saquon, the Raiders lost Josh Jacobs, the Chargers lost Austin Eckler. They all had guys that they thought were their top guys that they've all moved on. And of course, the Cowboys lost Tony Pollard. But Tony Pollard only averaged 4 yards per carry last year. So the problem was that was your guy. He was a 1,000-yard rusher, but he wasn't necessarily dominating doing it. So that's a problem the Cowboys are going to have to figure out. And I think they feel like they were able to piecemeal it together enough last year that they can kind of do that again. But you piecemeal it together with a good back. I mean, Tony Pollard was not a bad back. He was hurt. You need to have another back early in the season last year. And you just were hoping they were going to come back and be healthy. But, to trust that running back core, even if you think Rigo Dowdle takes another step forward and gets up to, 4.5 yards per carry this season from, I think it was like 4.1 or something like that last season, then that's okay, but he's not going to break you a big one. And then you have to trust that Zeke is going to be able to give you 4 yards per carry as well. And maybe do small. That's the problem is you're hoping that all of these guys somehow overachieve versus getting one guy in that you know what he's going to be, and then you have a couple guys behind him that you're okay with that being your battery behind it.
Yeah. I think you're just leaving way too much in the air for the Cowboys. Hope is not a strategy, and the Cowboys, I think, are hoping the running back position works out for them because teams will cut running backs and they'll be able to get somebody, sign somebody late after the cut downs, or I think best case scenario, they trade for someone, and we've talked about it. Cowboys should be right now active toward the start of training camp. Even during training camp, the Cowboys should be one of the, if not the most active team in the NFL. Not only signing their own guys, Dak and CD, I think should be trading for a running back too. And they potentially should be looking to trade at some other positions of need for them. But running back, I don't think there's another position of greater need right now on the Cowboys roster than running back. And as we pointed out, Dameon Pierce and the Texans, that looks like that could be an attractive trade option for both teams. They drafted a running back. They signed Joe Mixon. They're not really, Dameon Pierce's usage dropped off a cliff last season toward the end of the season. It doesn't seem like the Texans are interested in keeping him. Cowboys probably could give up a late round pick, seventh round, 6th round pick, and get a guy like Dameon Pierce who's still on that rookie deal. I believe got a couple of years left on that rookie deal potentially, and see if he's an upgrade for you. Now that would start, to me, a true committee. You got Rico Dowdle, then you add a guy like Dameon Pierce, then you got Zeke. That's a real committee. And I feel good about it.
And again, and the reason why we say Dameon Pierce, there's a couple of things. Because people say, well, if he's not good enough for the Texans, why would he be better there? Dameon Pierce's rookie season was a decent enough back. He wasn't great, but he was decent enough. You thought this guy's got a lot of potential. You bring in a new system in Bobby Slowick and the zone run, and he never was able to really figure that out. So he regressed heavily in that second year. But because of that regression, you should be able to get him on a much cheaper trade now. So it's one of the reasons why you think you could get him is you're not getting a great running back, but you can probably get him for a 5th or probably a 6th round pick. So if you say a 6th round pick to add a running back that could be your starter and, be the best running back in that committee. And if he then progresses again this season, like what you expected him to do last year, in a system that he's a little bit more familiar with and something that he can just, take the ball, find the hole and go, which is what he was better at than trying to sit behind the line and finding the hole and taking his time. And the Cowboys run game is a little bit more straightforward. At least it was last season. I think that you could see his, the improvement with him. That's one of the reasons you list him, is that he isn't a guy that you're going to have to trade a 3rd or 4th round pick to go get. And I don't think the Cowboys want to do that. I think if they did make a trade, they'd want to bring in someone more that level.
Totally agree. There are other options around. We're talking about Dameon Pierce because we're close to it, but there are other teams that have depth at running back, maybe an embarrassment of riches at running back. Just find those teams around the NFL.
Yeah.
There's probably 4 or 5 of them, and say and call them and say, all right, I'm trying to get the lowest man on your depth chart at the running back position, or one of the guys that are lower on that depth chart, or whoever you're trying to get rid of. Sometimes they want to get rid of the high profile back because they want cheaper discounted rates at the running back position. So they don't want the guy that's making a lot of money. And maybe that's the guy you get. I just think the Cowboys got to look at some of those.
Yeah. Like if you look at the Bears right now just signed DeAndre Swift. Khalil Herbert is coming up at the end of his rookie contract. So they may want to try and it's just something back for Khalil Herbert, because they also just drafted Roschon Johnson. So you already have 2 guys you feel you're going to trust in Roschon and DeAndre Swift. Do you need to have all 3 of them on that roster? If you get a pick back for him, you might let him go.
Yep, I like that. All right, there you go. Some Cowboys conversation. Let's talk a little Texans. I've been saying for a while the growing hypothesis about CJ Stroud's second year and his second year leap, or a second year slump, whichever one you're predicting for CJ Stroud. You're projecting the schemes that he's going to see, or at least the different defensive strategies that he's going to face, are going to be similar. And going off recent NFL history of really good, elite, high-level rookie quarterbacks, like a Joe Burrow, like, a Patrick Mahomes. He wasn't a rookie, but you get my point. Young quarterbacks, and they show tremendous promise, show the ability to be a top 10 quarterback as a first-year starter. Those types of quarterbacks, usually the evolutionary adaptation in the NFL follows the same track. And essentially it is, they go from basically daring that young quarterback to be able to make NFL throws in tight windows versus man coverage, some single high looks, put an extra man in the box, take away the run game from the young quarterback, see how he performs without a run game and having to throw through really tight windows, single high safeties, so I can blitz them. He's like the blitz young quarterbacks. So I can bring blitzes and bring different pressure packages, more exotic pressure packages, try to confuse a young quarterback who hasn't seen a lot of high-level NFL defenses. That's usually the blueprint on a rookie. And some rookies, they're exposed as a result of this. They can't throw through the tight windows, can't handle the exotic pressure packages, can't handle when the defense tries to take their running game away and put the game on their shoulders as a young QB, and then they look flustered, discombobulated, and we've seen that happen time and time again. But every now and then, a CJ Stroud, a Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and maybe the Josh Allen, a young first-time starter, they destroy that blueprint. They can make the throws downfield vertically. They can hit receivers in really, really tight windows. They can have high numbers of sack avoidance. They're very good at sack avoidance, I should say, and handling pressure. And then the defense goes, all right, well, we roll the dice that this young quarterback wouldn't be able to handle the pressure, wouldn't be able to throw in tight windows, wouldn't be able to handle the burden of having an offense be pass first with a rookie quarterback instead of having the balance of the run game. So once they do prove themselves, then they usually back up the safeties. They have 2 deep safeties to put a umbrella over the defense, so that young quarterback can't eviscerate them with the vertical shots downfield. And it's especially the case with big arm quarterbacks, i.e. Patrick Mahomes, i.e. a Josh Allen, of course, as well, thrown in there too. The big arm QB, Joe Burrow is in that category as well. So all those quarterbacks saw the same adaptation, which was, we're going to back our safeties up and force you to exercise patience as a young quarterback and march the length of the field in 12, 13 play drives instead of a 6 or 7 play drive with chunk yardage plays and vertical shots in it. And a lot of quarterbacks struggle. Josh Allen did, Patrick Mahomes did, even Joe Burrow. They struggle early on until they figure out, all right, I'm just going to take what the defense is giving me instead of banging my head against a brick wall trying to force these deep shots. Because as a young quarterback, they want to show off their big arm. That's what they're accustomed to. That's what lit the NFL on fire their first year as a starter, and they want to go back to that style of play. And the NFL is not going to let you beat them that way. The NFL is going to force you to beat them through double-digit play drives. And like the late, great Bill Walsh would say, the one thing working against offense is human error. Because you're asking for 11 people to be perfect, have perfect reps, and you want them to do that for 12 to 13 straight plays, he said it'll never happen. It's the purpose of a chunk yardage play. I need an explosive play so that the margin for error for me, I have more of a margin for error. Because if once you get to like play 9 or 10, that's a good chance a holding or a bad throw by the quarterback or a missed assignment by the offensive lineman or a receiver runs a route or the defense just makes a great play. The odds are working against you the more plays you're on the field as an offense. So and it's the case for, any offense, doesn't matter who they are. So to eliminate that error, you need to chunk yardage play. And then when I force you to march 10, 12 plays and you're a younger quarterback, chances are you could screw it up. O-line could screw it up. Anybody does. So that is the evolutionary, like I said, adaptation for the defense. And CJ Stroud's going to see the same thing because his rookie season was so phenomenal and so extraordinary. And Mina Kimes, she is basically saying the same thing. But she also lets you know that unlike some of the other quarterbacks, CJ Stroud may be better equipped to handle this shift happening in his second year, because in his first year, he already showed a lot of signs of promise against those two high looks.
Mahomes' own journey after lighting the league on fire his first year. The next couple of years, as Laura, you remember all too well because we talked about it endlessly on NSL Live, defenses started playing him with that too high shell coverage, and he grew so much as a quarterback, working underneath, being patient, lowering his average depth of target. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar with Stroud, especially with this receiver corps that, of course, now has Stephon Diggs as well. Teams are going to play them that way. Now, I want to note, when Stroud faced too high last year, he was eighth in QBR, neck and neck with Lamar Jackson, so he's already very good at it. But I expect him to face it even more this season, and he's going to have to show the patience that we saw from Patrick Mahomes after his first year as a starter.
She's right about that. According to Warren Sharp, who looked at most efficient QBs versus too high looks, he claims that CJ Stroud is the best, most efficient, I should say, quarterback versus too high looks from the 2023 season. There's something about CJ Stroud's game, and I've talked about this before. He is not afraid of throwing the ball vertically downfield. So this is going to be an interesting, kind of conundrum that he's going to face, because they're not going to let him throw the football downfield. But to me, that's almost his X-Man ability. That's his elite quality as a quarterback. I always say every quarterback needs an X-Man ability, something they do as well, if not better than everybody else or their peers. And CJ Stroud throws the ball vertically downfield in the NFL, which has now become a quick game league. 60% of the passing game is 3-step drops, quick out, quick slant, glance, hitch, smoke route, wide receiver screens, tunnel screens, bubble screens, just getting the ball out of the hands of the quarterback as quick as possible. He, as a young quarterback, is doing the opposite. CJ Stroud had 5 games last year with at least 25 pass attempts and a 10-yard average depth of target. That was the most in the NFL. In 3 of those games, he also had at least 10 yards per attempt, also a league high. Only Dak Prescott also had 2 last season. No rookie since 2000 has done that more than once. He did it in 3 of those games. And I said Dak Prescott had 2. No other rookie, though, has done it more than once. This guy's doing it as a rookie. If you go look at Stroud, was the only quarterback to throw more than half of his passes past the first down marker in 2023. Over the past 5 seasons, only 10 QBs have done that, have finished the season with at least 50% of their passing attempts past the sticks. Only 10 quarterbacks, period. He's doing it as a rookie. He's the only quarterback that did it this year. If you look at average depth of target being at least 9 yards and look at the lowest interception rates since 2000 of quarterbacks with at least 9 yards average depth of target and a interception rate of 1 or lower, he is the only quarterback to achieve that. All the other quarterbacks who push the football downfield that much have higher interception rates than 1.0. it's uncanny to be able to push the football downfield as successfully as he does and not be, subject to more turnover worthy plays. It's extreme. It's low risk, extremely high reward. And we know his offensive line was the most injured O line in the NFL in the last 23 years. And as the season went on, they trusted him more. His early down pass rate went from 52% in the first 6 weeks of the season to around 56%. So it went from like 24th to 12th. So they gave him more free reign to be able to operate the offense, and he did not disappoint. So that's what makes him unique. Most young quarterbacks are not pushing the football downfield as much as he is. And if they are, then they're turning the football over at a much higher rate. And they're going to throw it even more on early downs. They're going to throw it even more next season vertically downfield. And they're going to open it up with more spread packages with 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers as well. So once again, crazy CJ Stroud stats. I got a bunch of them, but it's interesting that not only have we not seen rookies stretch the field like he does, you don't see quarterbacks in the NFL stretch the field like he does as successfully and effective and efficiently as he does. All right. We got Rod's rant on the other side. Also, I'll get to a breakdown analysis of the topic for the big fat poll today about Caleb Williams and the situation that he's in. Baker Mayfield actually has some comments that I wanted to dive into. I'm talking about his time in the NFL. So we might get to that as well. We also got your Rangers report on the other side. Got the All-Star break coming up. So we got a couple of news, notes, and nuggets we're going to share for Rangers fans out there. So jam-packed coming up. Don't go anywhere. This is the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to our Rangers report. Rangers had a really important road series of games. Final 6 games before the All-Star break, all of them were on the road for the Rangers. They were not performing well on the road. Had I think a 40% win percentage on the road, and of course had to go to H-Town to face their heated rival, the Astros, in that Silver Boot series. The Rangers took 2 of 3 at Anaheim. And they dropped the finale. Also lost that opener at Minute Maid. So a lot of Rangers fans were probably a little bit down then, but Rangers bounced back, won the final 2 games, including a 4-2 victory yesterday, and finished with a winning road trip that might convince Rangers fans to be a little bit more optimistic. They're 46-50, third place now in the AL West. So Rangers, they are only 5 games out of first place, got 66 games left, 7.5 games out in the wild card standings. And they got to pass 5 teams for that final spot. So they got plenty of time, and they got a little bit of momentum heading into the All-Star break. The draft, the Rangers selected 2 college position players Sunday night in the first 2 rounds of the draft, taking Stanford catcher Malcolm Moore in the first round, 30th overall, and Tennessee outfielder Dylan, hope I pronounced his name correctly, Drilling in the second round, 65th overall. The 3-day draft is going to resume today. The Rangers are in the back half of each round for the first time since 2017. Where they picked in the top 4 of each of the past 3 rounds. So we'll say this about the Rangers. We're just talking about college players as opposed to players getting drafted out of high school. The Stanford catcher Malcolm Moore became the 6th straight college player selected by the Rangers in the first round, dating to Josh Young in 2019, 8th player overall. Cole Winn was the last prep player selected in 2018. For the Rangers.
Yeah.
There you go.
And this is a Rangers team now that went over the win of the series against the Astros. There's been a lot of questions about this Rangers team, if they're going to be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline. Guys like Marcus Semien, he's 34 years old. Do they decide, okay, well, we won our World Series. Do we move on and get rid of some of these older guys and move into a younger era and try and, do a quick turnaround and be back competing again in a couple of years? But the fact that you're only 5 games out of first now, the Mariners didn't pull away. They lost some of those games down the stretch. That puts you right in that case. You're in the race for the wild card as well. You feel like you're going to get DeGrom back at some point. That starting pitching might help you out a little bit more. The big question is, I don't know what necessarily you're going to be able to bring back in. But it looks more and more like, if you're a Rangers fan, you have more reason to believe this team might be a buyer at the deadline. You don't really ever want to watch your team be sellers, because it means you're pretty much giving up on the year. So you could see this team still be a buyer, which would be positive for Rangers fans, and definitely give that AL West race something special again that came down to the wire last year.
Yeah, no doubt. So Rangers fans, hopefully optimistic heading into the All-Star break. But that is our Rangers report, brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer.
The Rangers Report is brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer, your premier truck accessory dealer.
All right, time to get into Rod's rant of the day. A couple of things that I want to hit here. I think we got enough time to hit a couple of different stories. So I saw the Baker Mayfield comment, apparently. So Baker Mayfield, I think he was just kind of taking a shot at all the other teams that had passed on him, and he had been traded a lot, and not only traded a lot, but even when he stayed with the Browns, who drafted him for the first few years of his career, there was a lot of turnover around him, even though he wasn't moving around, a lot of turnover around him. So when he was asked about now being the guy, the starting quarterback for the Tampa Bay Bucks, he said, he said, you're having a lot more fun when you're not getting shipped off to different places like a piece of dirty laundry. I'll tell you that. So when I got embraced in Tampa, it made a world of difference. I've always played ball to enjoy it. I mean, it is a game. Yes, it is my job, but I love it so much. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because once again, there's something working against Baker Mayfield again. He's got another offensive play calling coordinator. I mean, he got drafted when 2018, so 18, 19, 20, 20. You're talking about in his first, yeah, so easily because he's been to multiple teams actually in 2022. So you're talking about in his first 6 years in the league. He's going to end up because he'll have a new offensive coordinator this year. So in 2018, he had Todd Haley was his play caller. 2019, it was Todd Monken and Freddie Kitchens. Not sure which one. I think it was Todd Monken though. Then Freddie Kitchens was also in on the play calling. Alex Van Pelt in 2020. It might have been Kevin Stefanski there too. In 2021, it was also Alex Van Pelt. In 2022, it was Ben McAdoo. Also in 2022, he had Sean McVay because remember he was traded to the Rams or at least picked up by the Rams. Liam Cohen was also an offensive coordinator there, but Sean McVay calls the plays. And then you had Dave Canales in 2023 with the Bucs, and he had obviously one of the best years he's had as a pro. I mean, that is a lot. You're talking about 7 play callers because he's going to end up with a new one this year. 7 play callers in those 7 years. Like that to me, I think Baker's done actually a great job considering all the turnover, but it doesn't, to me, I don't think it lends itself to success. So that's an uphill battle for Baker Mayfield, whoever they bring in. He's a vet now, so there's certain things that he knows, period. But I mean, that's the main reason for his stunted development. He's got a lot, responsibility in that too, because he was immature in some ways, the way he approached being a professional and being a franchise quarterback. We all know that. But man, the change. Remember, that's what Alex Smith dealt with that. Remember, Alex Smith had like 7 different OCs in his time with the 49ers, and then finally got some stability with Andy Reid as the play caller and the guy. And then you saw the best out of Alex Smith. Like, oh man, look at Alex Smith. Actually, he's actually not bad. We thought he was a bust. Like, no, he just needed some stability around him. But I will admit, more and more quarterbacks, they don't need that stability. Like Jalen Hurts had this kind of career. If we want to count college, which I actually started go back and look at college too in terms of turnover and continuity and stability. Jalen Hurts has had 7 offensive coordinators going back to college. He's had Lane Kiffin, Brian Dable, Michael Locksley, Josh Gaddis, Lincoln Riley, and then get to the NFL and you got Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, Brian Johnson, and now Kellen Moore. That's a lot. Like it in his short, time as a college and a pro. And I don't know if it's stunted his development. He still seems to be doing pretty good. I wonder if at one point it helps you. You're being exposed. Well, at first, I think it stunts your growth. I think at first it's just a lot to deal with. But then I wonder at one point when the light goes off, if that expanded knowledge ultimately for you as a quarterback, if it just starts to improve your overall IQ. Now, continuity is going to help you at one point. You want to have continuity with the play caller and with the coordinator. But like I said, there are guys that I'm starting to notice. Like I said, Baker Mayfield, we'll see. This is going to be a big year for Baker Mayfield. Is it just a Dave Canales thing? Because Dave Canales did that with Geno Smith in Seattle. He kind of was able, I would say you become a made man in the NFL if you can resuscitate the career, resuscitate the skill set of a quarterback, and Dave Canales has showed the ability to do that. So is Baker Mayfield just another Dave Canales successful experiment, or are we going to see him actually start to, flourish and now thrive, just now becoming a veteran QB in the league and having so much knowledge about all these different systems and knowing what connects them all, knowing the successful concepts and the successful philosophical advantages that all of those different systems have, and the downsides to them and the drawbacks. Basically, himself becoming a makeshift coordinator in the league. he should have that kind of base knowledge now, and maybe that kind of base knowledge turns him into a much better all around quarterback. Like I said, I really don't know. I think we're in the midst of watching several of these experiments in the process, like even with Jalen Hurts. Like Jalen Hurts had a regression last year. So does he need continuity now? Is he at the point now where he's had, Lane Kiffin and Brian Daboll and Mike Loxley and Josh Gaddis and Lincoln Riley and Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen and Brian Johnson. Now Kellen Moore, you're talking about now. Going back to his college days, going back to 2016 is when he started college, I believe it was. So in 8 years, you're talking about 8-9 OCs and play callers in that time span. There's a lot of different offense to learn, but I think now he may need a little bit stability. Like, now he's got the knowledge base. Now can we just get him some consistency? And I think Baker may need some of that too. That's why I fear potential regression this year and we don't know who the next guy is going to be. They're going to have to get continuity going forward. But I think that is for Baker, potentially that is going to be his road to success. Now, can he get somebody in there to stick with him for more than a year or two?
Yeah.
Steven Canales was there for just 1 year.
And I think there is something to be said of these really good OCs as the guys who find a way to work with the quarterback and bring a certain amount of continuity for that quarterback, change their system to match some of the things and meet the quarterback halfway to say, okay, well, we're going to change up some of these things, but these are the things you're really good at. So let's try and work with those things and give you a little bit more continuity in those parts of your game. So when we come in, you're not having to completely rework everything you're doing and rework your cadences and rework, exactly. You like to go through your progressions one way, and I'm going to change the way you go through your progressions and just kind of reteaching you the game of football. I'm going to work with you in continuity that way, but the playbook is going to be different. So we're going to have some different things, but we'll work with the things that work well. And a guy like Dave Canales seems to be good at meeting you a little bit halfway to figure out where that continuity is. And then the question is, does the next guy come in and say, screw all that, this is the right way to do it, so we're doing it my way? I think you're seeing, we saw with Jalen Hurts, I think he's had some really good OCs that have worked with him to work with his strengths. And then you throw in last year where it just all went to hell in Philadelphia coaching, and they didn't know what they were doing.
Exactly.
And now there was no continuity, and there was nowhere to turn, and everybody was stabbing each other in the back at a certain point to try and figure out what was wrong. And it was everybody's finger pointing to everybody else, and it's somebody else's fault. And you can't have that. So, for Jalen Hurts, it's going to be Kellen Moore. And I mean, I think more than Jalen Hurts, even this is Kellen Moore's real, are you a real OC? Or
it is. Yeah.
Were you somehow even holding Dak back a little bit, that he's looked better since you were gone? And you just got lucky that you had this really good quarterback that made you look like a good OC. Or was it you just had a bad year last year and you're actually a really good OC? We'll figure it out and you'll be able to go. But Baker Mayfield, I think you have to be able to have that point of, he's been in the league long enough now. You have to sit down and talk to him a little bit and know, here's a little bit of continuity for you. Here's what are the things we need to keep that you've been doing that worked last year, and not just completely walk in again in every single year. Here's a new playbook. Here's a million more things to learn.
And honestly, now that you said that, because I totally agree with you, by the way. I don't think you get that with Kellen Moore. From what and I'm going to get this quote here because I found it earlier. Okay, here it is. Yes. Okay, so Jalen Hurts said, he indicated 95% of the Eagles offense has new inventory.
Yeah.
He said, this is a Jalen Hurts quote. He said, right now, it's been a lot of new inventory in, the majority of it, probably 95% of it being new. So I think his expanded knowledge base will help him adapt and acclimate to a new system easier and better. I think that's what's happening with a lot of these quarterbacks. Alex Smith back in the day, with Baker Mayfield. But I think the overall trajectory of the success, the overall arc of it, will be determined by the continuity, whether it's just something that's an outlier and then we see regression. Because I do think for Jalen Hurts, regression is coming too if they can't get Kellen Moore to first of all, bring in a system that he can effectively adapt and mold around the skill set of Jalen Hurts, but also if they can't get somebody to stick around there and kind of run a Jalen Hurts friendly offense for more than a season, basically.
Because if you don't stay for more than a season and it doesn't work, then you never start to figure it out and can build on it and grow. Because it may work, but if it's switching every year, then you don't get any of that piece. So that's why you want to hire those OCs that have a track record of finding what works and building on it. Mike McDaniel was that guy who went through several quarterbacks in San Francisco, helping work with those guys. And then he was the story of when he went to Miami and everyone was basically already written off Tua. And he was talking about how he immediately went through and put together a DVD of Tua's best plays.
Yep.
And sent it to Tua to regain his confidence and talked about, we're going to do these things that you're really good at, and built that way. So he got a better starting ground with Tua because he said, you already know how to do this. I don't have to teach you this. I don't have to figure it. I have to figure out how to make the rest work around that because I'm the coach and I believe myself and I believe I can do that. That's where you see the difference of some of these coaches. And that's what you'll see with Baker this year with his new OC, and you'll see with Kellen Moore and Jalen Hurts. There will be that question of how much of it is it's my way or the highway, and how much of it is extenuating and really showing off the best pieces of what that quarterback can do.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. Then you got guys like Jared Goff, who was so lucky. They only end up with like 2 or 3 OCs, but they end up with the right ones. Right, he ended up with Sean McVay after dealing with Jeff Fisher's crew, and he ended up with Ben Johnson there in Detroit. It's like, oh man! And then look what that can do for your career. He just he had 3 or 4 of them in his career, and he's had the right 2 or 3 in his career. Okay, that's our take for a Raj rant. You know what? On the other side, I'll give you my factoids about the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. Right before we get to who said that, that's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes from beyond the sports world, and based on the context clues or based on the familiarity of the voice itself, you're supposed to be able to recall and identify who said that. We'll have that when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It's a Smooth Soul Monday. That's when my man Patrick plays some songs intended to make your transition from the weekend to the work week a much smoother transition, because it can be a little tough. And that's the purpose of a Smooth Soul Monday. So thank you, Patrick, for the Smooth Soul Monday. Also, Thanks to Patrick for the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day. That's posted up there on the X account at the Horn ATX. The Big Fat Poll today wants to know which number one overall pick will have the best career. And right now, Caleb Williams is winning that poll right now. 55% of you voted and said Caleb Williams is going to have the best career. And that's probably because you've done some research too. I remember giving you guys this information of the 28 quarterbacks, and he's the 28th, by the way, to be drafted number one overall in the Super Bowl era. You go look at it. His Bears, they have the best record of any team drafting a quarterback number one overall in the Super Bowl era, except for 3 teams. They have a better record than all but 3 teams, and those 3 teams would be the if you go look at it right now, those 3 teams would be the 19 oh sorry man, I lost my place here. I apologize. Okay, yes. Okay, so Jeff George is a part of that group. Jeff George and the Colts. That was a team that was thrown in here. Number one overall pick went to an 8-8 team. The Rams, who were 7-9 with Jared Goff. We just talked about him. They also were a team with a better record than these Bears and Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers. They had a better record than these Bears. So, but as we know, all of those teams actually had a worse record the year they drafted their rookie quarterback, and the chances are we'll see if the Bears can be a little bit better than their 7-10 record. But usually a team that's a 7-win team doesn't get the number one overall pick, and we know because of the ineptitude of the Carolina Panthers, it worked out for the Bears. All right, there you go. So go check out the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. That's posted up there for you at the X account at Horn ATX. Right now, time to get to who said that. That's when my man Patrick plays pieces of audio for you, and based on the context clues or based on the familiarity of the voice, hopefully you can recall and identify who said that.
Does it feel for the first time in literally decades, basically your entire adult life, to be on a different side of this now?
Well, it's a little different. I've never worn a credential in my life and was always for 17 years able to get in the SEC Media Day without a credential. I had to go back to the room today and get my credential to get in. So that's one of the biggest changes I see. It's not like it used to be.
I would love to have been there when someone said to you, Coach Saban, I'm sorry, we can't allow you in here without a credential. That's a conversation I hope someone got that on film. Did you happen to notice anyone with a camera when that was happening?
No one on camera, but the people were very polite. So it was okay.
All right, there you go. Nick Saban having to be asked about his credentials. Yeah. That's I don't know who did that. I don't know who did it, but good for you for being a stickler for the rules, man.
You know who did that? A Georgia fan.
Oh man, but still, Nick
Maybe
Saban. He's not even
fan.
maybe right. Maybe it's an Auburn fan.
Maybe
yeah,
it's it's in Dallas. By the way, they
bold.
did announce next year. Do you know where next year is SEC Media Days? Did you see where that's going to be?
Back in Atlanta, right?
Back in Atlanta. They said we're gonna go try and get a nice recruiting hold in Dallas, but we got to go back and keep the recruiting hold in Atlanta. We're just gonna hey, you know what? Big 12, go to Vegas, make a big spectacle. We're gonna do our media days where recruiting is very important.
Yeah, no, that's all right. So basically, only once that they moved. I wonder how many times they moved around. They moved it just for Texas coming into the SEC, didn't they?
I mean, I think they want to get that recruiting. And
yeah,
I don't know if it was just for Texas, but I think it was. We want to make sure that we have our foothold here in Texas recruiting. That's why we got A&M in. That's why we're getting Texas in. We want to get Texas recruiting. We want those players to be in the SEC.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good point there. All right, there you go. So SEC Media Days are upon us. It is officially begun. We'll have a lot of audio from SEC Media Days, I guarantee you, all throughout the week. We'll probably be hearing more from Nick Saban, too. Now, you got to wear his credentials. He's got to wear a little name tag that says Nick Saban on it. which I think it's crazy because everybody knows who Nick Saban is. We just talked about
Mr. Saban, is it? Saban?
Saban? Yes, seriously. Thank you. Good job. As always, Patrick. Appreciate all of your work. Thank you guys for joining us. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll be talking about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. Until next time, hook 'em and peace.